What we do here is go back.
Let's give it a go. You never know, it might be working. Have I done everything? Yes, I think I have. Oh, let's clear that off the screen. Where's my mouse? There it is. Unprepared as always, even though I've had hours to prepare, but there you go. Good evening, it is the 17th of June 2023. I'm Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and good evening to you that are joining us on this live stream. And it's very warm. We haven't turned the lights on yet because they just generate more heat. I don't know how, because they're low wattage bulbs, but I don't know. Technology is a strange thing, which is why we do this stream, and I'm running over my cable. Hopefully you can all hear me. If you can hear me, please let me know in the chat. That would be fantastic. Low volume. Whispering mic, oh my god. I've got my loud mic attached at the moment. That's not a good sign. Sounds like Mike's in a box. Oh dear, right. Hold the line caller, let's see what's going on here. So, where are we? Stream mic. And advanced audio properties. Stream mic. Ah, that might be why. Right, how is that? Is that any better? Is that fine? Volume's fine, as is audio levels. Okay, is that any better? A little better. Oh, is it still too low? Looks like it's yeah, actually, yeah, it is a little bit low. Let's turn it up a little bit more. So let's add 2 dB of gain. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2. How's that? Is that better? Please let me know in the chat. No one said anything yet. O'Reilly says, hi all, watching from my iPad, laying on my bed with my foot raised as I got a horsefly bite, which almost sent me to the doctors. Wow. Louder now. Okay, a little better. Working out okay here, Mike. Mark Riley says, better, all good. Does it still need to go up? Still low volume? The letter says sound is good. Let's try, I'll try a little bit more. I'll add a little bit more because it does look a little bit low actually on the screen, to be fair. So let's try add in another decibel of volume. 1 2 1 2. That should be better. That is, I've added roughly 4 decibels of gain. So decibels don't work linearly in a straight line. They go exponentially rather than. It's not like 2 plus 2 is 4. It's like 2 plus 2 is 8. And 8 plus 8 is 32. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't. Anyway, hopefully.
You were right on the shopping.
Sorry?
But you were right on the shopping.
I did work out the shopping. We went shopping and I actually worked out the total of what we owed at the till. Pounds, pennies, whilst queuing. Just by glancing into the basket. If we'd have had more than one item, that would have been impressive. I'm joking, we did. We had 4 items. That's a lot for me. Anyway, hopefully that is working. Are we on? Willie Bob says I've got headphones on. Audio is good. Good stuff. Gordon Dew says the sound is okay, just a little low, but I can turn it up. Not bad now, says Stuart. Still a little bit low. Okay, let's crank it up a little bit more. Give it another decibel. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Oh, let's add another one. 5 dB. There we go. Let's close. I'm not adding any more. That should be enough. Hopefully that is. Yes, that should be enough. If it's not, we'll just give up. Call it a day. I'm not sure what it is. there's something bizarre with the audio input on the PC. It's allegedly a high quality codec. It's the ARC 7000 series, which is the new one on the AM5 socket. But actually, it's always going to be one of those things where modern technology sucks. I think this has always been the case. There's very, very few instances where actually upgrading anything has been one of those kind of night and day differences. For me, there's been a very few. Upgrading from a record player or tape to CD audio, that was one which was like, wow, that is clear, a noticeable difference. That was moderately impressive and stayed around for a long time. The next one was hard disk drives to SSDs. Again, that was like, wow, night and day difference. This is the future for sure. And certain things like the 3DFX graphics cards, the Voodoo cards when they first come out, when you've gone from like your S3 Trio or your ATI Rage, and then you put your Voodoo card in, you're like, wow, I have an arcade in my room. What the hell? But that hasn't always been the case for modern upgrades. And being someone who, unfortunately, due to my line of work, i.e. this, I quite often have to be a guinea pig for this modern stuff, including Intel LGA 1700, which runs like a thermonuclear warhead in a PC and isn't helped by the high temperatures currently, and Intel being just Intel, you know what they're like. What is Flame doing? Buffer? Shouldn't be. Doesn't seem to be losing any frames there. If it's buffering, let me know. No, we're all good now. Excellent stuff. Calf, can you do a bang test so we can hear if the sound is good?
Flame did one.
Okay. Calf did it the other day when I was doing something, and I actually genuinely got quite pissy. I can't think what it was. Did something.
It was in that stream.
Oh, it was in the stream, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the week, yes. Anyway, perfect here. Excellent. Penning green. There's a question there. I'll come to that in a second. Actually, I'm going to highlight it so I remember it. And also, I should say thank you to Ugly Bob for the super chat that's coming already for the £2. Thank you very much, Bob. Yeah, so this week has been traumatic beyond belief. It's been, I would argue, this has been one of my personal worst weeks that I've had in a long, long time with technology. And that takes some doing, especially when I was the early adopter for the AM5 socket. Now, this week, the problem has been predominantly with Intel, believe it or not. So the Intel ARC A770, which this is a really difficult one because I really wanted to see a third player in the graphics card market. Obviously, AMD were always the kind of underdog. NVIDIA have always been predominantly the kind of market leader and the big ogre of the market, kind of dictating how things go. And with Team Red, with the graphics cards, you always felt there was some level of competition. So having a third player in the game, such as Intel with their new ARC graphics cards, seemed like it should be something that I should get behind, because I'm generally in life, as much as in computing, I do try to champion the underdog wherever possible, and I often try and take the fight for those that possibly don't have the voice or the stomach for it. So that is what I do. I always have been. It gets me into all sorts of trouble, but hey, that is the way things are. So I'll try and make a short story long, and I started off with the original Intel ARC A750 LE. Now with that, I initially thought it was a great graphics card, and to be fair, it is. It was at a reasonable price at the time in the market when it came out, but there were some slight issues with performance, which are kind of understandable with drivers maturing, etc., but it has the potential to be a fantastic graphics card, as did the A770, although considerably more expensive. So when the opportunity came up that I could return my A750 because of a strange undisclosed fault, such as the screen just randomly going blank for no apparent reason, and excessive coil whine, I would say, even under idle conditions, it was all a little bit too much for me. So I returned it, and I actually managed to get hold of the A770 from ASRock for exactly the same money, or maybe a couple of pounds either way, but it's basically an upgraded card for the same money, so it makes sense. And originally it was like £350, it's now down to £250, so it's worth taking a look at. or at least I thought. So initially trying to get the ARC A750 to go into low power mode, i.e. when your desktop is just idle, maybe a couple of tabs open, maybe you're listening to YouTube or something, or watching YouTube, and you know, basically anything other than gaming or video editing, your graphics card in theory should go into low power mode. Now if you try this for yourselves now, well actually I would appreciate it if you did. If you are running anything like hardware monitor, or you've got hardware info 64, something like that running, do me a quick favor, fire it up, look at your GPU idle temperatures, or sorry, your GPU idle wattage, or package wattage lowest, whatever it is, and let me know what it is in the comments. Stick it in the chat there live. If you're watching this as a replay on the VOD, then please also do the same. It'd be really interesting to see what your characteristics are, and actually let me know what graphics card you're using as well, because that's going to make things a little bit interesting as well, so we can see whose are the most efficient in idle, because most of the time your PC is effectively idling. It's doing its usual stuff. It's showing a basic 2D display, which shouldn't be very taxing for the GPU. Now, I would imagine most of you, if you are going to be running this and you are going to be putting your results in the chat or if in the comments, most of you, I would say, even if you're on a 4K 165 Hertz monitor, your idle results should be somewhere in the region between 5 to 10 watts, for most modern GPUs at least. If yours is significantly higher, then potentially you've got something else going on in the background, but in general, most AMD and NVIDIA graphics cards of the last 5 years or so have an extremely low idle wattage, which makes them obviously relatively efficient, because most of the time your PC is idle, it's not doing a great deal, so you don't want it to be sat there burning through electricity. Now this is where Intel had their big problem. Their idle results are pretty awful, and in fact most of them idle somewhere between 40 and 50 watts just on your Windows desktop, which if you put that into comparison, that is basically the same as a 3400G or a 2200G, or potentially even like a GTX 1060 possibly, basically lower end cards actually whilst gaming. Now ironically, actually in games the Intel Arc will run at about 135 to 150 watts, which is actually quite low for the card it is, but idle is about 40 to 50, which is absolutely horrendous. And as a consequence of running at those high clock speeds continually and using that much power, it's generating heat, so your GPU is going to be around about 60 degrees Celsius just idling pretty much all the time, possibly more, and every now and then your fans are going to kick in because you can go over the 60 threshold, so the fans are going to try and cool the thing. And literally just idling, you can touch your hand on the back of the graphics card on the metal hot plate and it is freaking hot, which it shouldn't be. It should be basically using very, very little energy and very cost efficient. Now Intel obviously are one of the big players behind the whole green initiative, agenda, whatever you want to call it, and things like Energy Star and all that stuff, they're compliant with pretty much every aspect of that. And their modern processors with their big little architecture do actually sip power when they're not under load. So when their graphics card comes out and is literally using 40 to 50 watts idling, that is the same as leaving, well, if you've got those LED downlights in your kitchen and you've got maybe, I don't know, 8 or 10 of them, that is effectively like leaving those on for 8 to 10 hours a day, which you clearly don't want to do, and I don't want to do. So this week has been spent mostly trying to actually remedy that, and I've spoken with, this week, so far, MSI, because they are the manufacturer of the motherboard that I'm using on the system. I've also spoken with Intel, as they are obviously the original manufacturer of the GPU and the drivers, and also speaking to ASRock to try and see what their kind of take on it is. There's been many, many things, and there are lots of things you can look on the internet, and also Intel's own documentation. They do significantly list out saying, yep, hands up, this is our problem, we've made a bit of a boo-boo here, this is how to rectify it. You can go into the BIOS, turn on ASPM mode, which is like power management, set it to level 1, which is its lowest, go into Windows, into power, PCI Express, and then maximum power saving, and bada bing, bada bang, you should, in theory, get down to about somewhere between 7 to 15 watts, depending on your setup, how many monitors, etc, etc. Now I'm using one monitor, and anywhere between 60 Hz and 165 Hz, it makes no difference at all. I've managed to get it down to 35 watts on idle, which is better. It's 25% better, roughly. So we're heading in the right direction, but still, there is something about the motherboard or my software which does not like it. I have tried the exact same setup, almost, in a separate motherboard, with a fresh installation of Windows, and actually managed to get it to go down to 15 watts. So I know the card is potentially capable of doing it, but I cannot get it to do it. So I've spent at least 3 days now, because I'm supposed to be doing a video review of this card, which is the whole point of it. It's a great card. It performs amazingly. In Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Premiere, it runs like an absolute train. It's fantastic. It beats things like the RTX 3070, almost down to 3080 levels of performance in video editing, which is absolutely outstanding for a kind of £250 card. But the idle wattage usage is an absolute deal breaker for me, because I cannot have a PC sat on for the best part of 12 hours a day burning through electricity in that regard. 40 to 50 watts 12 hours a day is not good, and I will not put up with it. So I do want to find out what the answer is. I don't want to have to do a fresh install on my rig, but I do feel that I'm this invested now that I might have to do it, but it still doesn't answer the question of why is it doing it, because I'm guessing there's other people out there that are having the problem, and looking at the Intel forums, that is definitely the case. Anyway, so that has been basically the shit show that has been my week so far, and it's been absolutely so soul destroying that modern technology, we keep on doing these things, we upgrade, and we're generally getting worse. The RX 7600 was potentially an option, was going to be on the table, but it's basically much worse efficiency than the RX 6600, but for more money, and is roughly the same sort of speed. So it's absolutely pointless. So AMD have also dropped the ball there. Nvidia, absolutely no point buying an RTX 4060 Ti. It's basically a 3060 Ti with a higher price, possibly arguably better power efficiency, but in terms of performance it's probably a downgrade as well, especially for video editing. So it's been recently, basically everything on the market is just coming out and being absolute, well, trash. And I was talking to Kath about this a little bit earlier on today. I was saying, I don't know what it is at the moment, just everything that seems to be coming out on the market is either like half-assed, broken, or absolutely terrible value for money. And I said earlier in Discord that I'm so tempted just to go back to AM4 for everything. Just get rid of all the modern stuff, get rid of AM5, get rid of 12th and 13th gen, maybe go back to 10th gen Intel.
Windows 10.
The new processors automatically trying to navigate themselves up to 95 centigrade is just insanity. You don't create that amount of heat by accident. That is a waste product. So even though these processors can be very, very efficient, in general, they're not. And my AM5 rig behind me, I am so disappointed with AM5. The processor is idling currently, well, it's not idling because it's running OBS, but just when it's idling, just on a Windows desktop, 30 watts for a processor which is doing basically nothing. But it's ready to do something. What is the point? I've got a 13900K over there, which is the worst thermonuclear disaster in the world, yet that idles at like 5 watts, the same as a laptop effectively. So how can Intel do it so well for the processor but so badly for the GPU, and how can AMD go from being the efficiency kings in AM4 and also the previous Radeon series to go to AM5 being just wasting energy and the new graphics cards just burning through it like it's gone out of fashion? Maybe they've got a deal set up with the electricity suppliers and they get some sort of rebate for every graphics card that's sold because it's going to basically cost you your soul to power the bloody thing. I don't know. Anyway,
I thought it said that.
Thank you, Ugly Bob, for the super chat. AM4 for the win. I agree, and I'm getting pretty sick and tired of the way that Intel and AMD and YouTube, for that matter, are basically, well, I suppose the tech media are basically saying, yeah, get AM5, get Intel, blah blah blah, get this, get that, it's great. And these people, the reviewers and the journalists and like the people at Computex, etc., they must be going through the same things that I do. They must do, and especially the bigger companies who have got.
Stuff.
Well, no, because this is like high end, well, moderately high end stuff.
Moderately.
Yeah.
If you had the high end, would it be a different story?
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it just seems like everyone is trying to push us down this alleyway of spending more money to get incremental or partial upgrades, when you can stay on your AM4. I honestly wish I'd stayed on my AM4 3900. That's a great processor, still is a great processor. At the time when I bought it, it was like £400. Now you can pick them up for like 150, 180, something along those lines. It's still an absolutely crazy powerful processor. Idles very low, uses very little wattage unless it actually has to. You don't need a crazy ridiculous motherboard to actually power it, or a crazy ridiculous power supply. We've basically gone nowhere in the last 4 years, 5 years. Well, no, it's
as
less than that.
says, does Linus care about a few more watts?
Yeah, I think that is it. A lot of the reviewers don't. I've noticed this actually specifically on reviews recently. If you look at graphics card and processor reviews, it's very rare. Processor ones possibly more so, but a lot of reviewers ignore wattage, especially in either gaming or idle. And I actually posted on Hardware Unboxed video this week because they did a comparison video of, I think it's RTX 4070s, and I watched the video a couple of times. To be fair, I was watching it on my mobile, so it was a bit small, and there was no real mention of wattage, which threw me a little bit. It's like, well, come on, this is Hardware Unboxed. These are the guys, and I messaged said, maybe I'm being stupid. Did I miss the wattage on here? And the reply was, yes, you missed it, which wasn't particularly helpful, but they're busy people, I understand. So I watched it through again, still couldn't find it. Listened to it again with my headphones on, no mention of wattage whatsoever. So I went onto my PC, full screen, and in some of the charts, a small section, there was a very little bit of text with the wattage on there that the card was using. No mention of idle wattage or anything like that, just literally, this is, well, I don't even know what the wattage was. It didn't say whether it was an average, whether or not it was the peak recorded wattage, whether it's the wattage in a certain benchmark or a certain game. No mention of it whatsoever. So if any of you are watching Hardware Unboxed and notice it, please inform me, because clearly I'm stupid or something and I missed it. But yeah, I think more emphasis needs to be taken on to the cost of actually running these things.
Loads of questions.
I know, I've probably got loads of questions now, or loads to get through.
But there's quite a lot up top. So
right.
if you do the one you've got on.
Let's do that question that I had earlier, which is on the screen now, but I can't see it, so I have to turn around. Pennine Green, good evening everyone. Beginner question for anyone. What advantages, if any, does having Thunderbolt on a motherboard? Please make the answer idiot proof. Many thanks in advance. Thunderbolt, if you get the modern version of Thunderbolt, which is basically the same as, well, almost the same as USB 4, if you've got a laptop or a device which supports it, you can actually hook up things to it which kind of might make sense. So an external GPU, for example, if you're using a relatively inexpensive laptop but you want to add a little bit of graphics horsepower to it, Thunderbolt will allow you to connect up a separate GPU, which is pretty beneficial and something you can't do over USB 3 as it stands at the moment, because it just has much better bandwidth than the way it works with the operating system. The actual docking stations for Thunderbolt generally tend to be a little bit more stable and reliable as well, and will have multiple different ports on them. So you'll probably have maybe 10 gigabit Ethernet, 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, 4K 60 outputs, multiple of those. Just you've got a lot of bandwidth there, and in general it's a more stable connection than traditional USB. That's pretty much the main thing of it. I think Thunderbolt potentially carries more data and possibly more power as well. I could be wrong with that, but that is the general gist of it.
Next one down is Bubs.
Bubs, let's see if I can find that. Was that before or after a super chat? From Bobolobulus. Bubs, let's see what Bubs.
Bubs L.
Bubs L. Bubs L. Hello, Kath. First time making it to a live stream.
one above that.
Bless you. Thank you for joining us. Bubs L. Hey Mike, Doug the budget APU. Let's start that again. And action. Hey Mike, Doug the budget AMD APU build you recently. No, effort. You like the video, okay? So you think AMD will also release their new model 7950HS, I think, as a standalone product for consumers? Unlikely, I would have thought. I don't know. Never rule anything out. If ever there's anything on the market which is available, if it's not directly available to consumers as a retail product, there's a strong chance it will end up on somewhere like eBay or Alibaba or AliExpress for a reasonable amount of money. Same happened with a lot of Intel and AMD processors, especially in GPUs as well. A lot of the things, I'm trying to think of which one came out, what models they were. I'm sure there was I think the 3500U came out first on like AliExpress, and there were certain, I think it's the 4650. I think the 4650G, maybe 4600, I'm not sure. There's definitely been an outlet for these types of things. So if they physically exist, there's a strong chance if they don't end up as a specific retail off-the-shelf product, eBay or AliExpress. Much like the engineering samples which you can buy. Hopefully that answers your question.
Lovely boy underneath.
Lovely boy. Lovely boy! Bro, suggest any good cooler for the Ryzen 7 5700G. To be honest with you, the 5700G doesn't require a whole heap of cooling. As long as you've got airflow in your case already, then something like the Thermalright BA120 or the Silent Assassin, any of the Thermalright Assassin range of the 120s will be absolutely fine. So if you want RGB, there's RGB ones. If you don't want RGB, there's plain ones. Alternatively, there are coolers such as, let me think, what else is there? Depending on what's available in your region, really. The Vitro V5 will do it easily, but that has really been kind of eclipsed by a lot of the Thermalright stuff now. There actually is one that I'm using currently in the PC behind me, which was sent by Ugly Bob recently. That there is the, I've got to try and figure the name now, I only did the video earlier. Johnsbow A4 and A5. So you can find those on AliExpress very, very cheaply. Starts from about £14 if you're in the UK for the white version, non-ARGB. If you want the ARGB version, maybe £20. If you want the black version, I think that was a little bit cheaper, but certainly worth taking a look at. That is currently cooling a 7700X and actually doing a pretty decent job, and it was within a couple of degrees of the 360mm AIO, which used to be in there, which I've been testing against today, even in this sweltering heat. Why am I doing benchmarking of CPUs generating heat in a freaking heat wave? Am I insane? Yes, quite possibly. KZH. Hey Mike, hi. KZH, are there any black PC cases you'd recommend that support a 360mm rad mount under £400, under £40? Ions doesn't seem to have anything that supports 360. Ooh, yeah, that's going to be a tricky one. 360mm radiator. Do you want it to be top mounted or front mounted, or are you not bothered either way? That would certainly be, most cases, or a lot of cases, will take a 360 up front, but on the top generally is a slightly different matter. For under £40. That is a tough one. Off the top of my head, with the current state of the market, I cannot think of one. If you can find the Antec P20C for less than 40 quid, that will definitely do it. And weirdly, that is available at either kind of £100 or thereabouts, or under £40, depending where you shop. So you might find that Antec P20C. Other than that, I suppose you could be looking at, well, it depends if you want it to be top mounted or not. If you're not too sure or you want more help, we can probably go into it in more detail on our Discord, or feel free to ask anybody else in the chat. Hopefully someone else has answered the question for you as well, which no doubt I'll see in time.
Jason Woods.
Ordinary Do says low power mode issues seem to be an Intel specific driver issue. Seems to have gotten better, but still not as good as AMD or Nvidia. Now I think it's a weird thing that they seem to have bizarrely overlooked. So I'm not too sure. William Bodie, what program shall I use, Mike? Hardware Monitor is free. You can use that pretty easily. Thank you, Ugly Bob. That was Ugly Bob, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Nice picture of me, Paul, Bitwit, and the Hairy Beast. Thank you for that. Yeah, Hardware Monitor is free. You can get that from CPU ID or CPU Z. I think it's CPU ID. It's quite an easy one to do. Potentially, actually, depending on what graphics card you've got. If you've got an AMD graphics card, you can do Alt-R, bring up the side panel. If you're on Nvidia, I think you can do the same thing with the GeForce Center thing, whatever it is, and it'll show you those things. I think that's Alt-R as well. Welly Bob, typical idle wattage, 11 watts on the 3060 Ti, 13 watts on a 3080. See, that is much, much better. Much better indeed. Jason Woods, question for you, Mike. I've got a Ryzen 5 3600 and a GTX 1060 6GB with a 550 watt power supply. I want to upgrade to an RTX 3060 Ti. Will my power supply be able to run it? Yes, it will. Very easily. The 3060 Ti, even under full gaming load, or, well, under gaming load is going to be fine. Under something like 3D Mark, those types of programs, generally peaks at about 200 watts, maybe 210. The 3600 is going to be drawing, well, it's supposed to be a 65 watt part, but generally under benchmark it's going to be somewhere between 80 to 100 watts depending on what you're running. So if you think processor and GPU maxed out 300 watts ish, say 350 for argument's sake, so your 550 watt power supply, even if it's only bronze efficiency at around about 85% efficiency, so take off about 15% of 500 watts, that's going to take you down to, what, 450. So yeah, I think you should be pretty much okay there.
Was that Jason Woods?
Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question, Jason. That's arithmetic going on right there. Lucky Man, 8 watts for the 4070. Yeah, that's pretty dope. The 40 series, their real saving grace currently is the fact that they just sit power. That's awesome. I think the 4070 under full load, like 3D Mark, is about 150 to 200 watts, I think, which is basically what the 3060 Ti was. Glenn's with us. How you doing? Right. Where do I get to? William Bodie, Zotac 3060, 12GB GPU, 38.8 degrees Celsius and 4.8 watts. That's an awesome result. I can only dream of having 4.8 watt idle on my Intel ARC. That is actually literally, the Intel ARC is 10 times less efficient because you've gone from 4.8 watts to my 48 watts, give or take. That is ridiculous.
Andy Archer said, Gordon on PC World had a comment a few weeks ago about motherboard BIOSes missing support for the Intel GPUs that lowers the idle power.
Yes, I agree, Andy, that is absolutely right. And I have, sorry, see Andy Archer saying there. So, isn't a BIOS support issue with Intel 770? Yeah, some motherboards don't have the ASPM option. AMD ones definitely don't. Intel boards do. I'm not sure why AMD ones don't. I think AMD ones natively you have ASPM control in the BIOS, in the operating system, whereas with Intel you have the choice of having ASPM control by like natively in your operating system or by the actual motherboard's hardware. So not all motherboards will give you the choice, especially AM4, AM5, but actually AM5 does, AM4 doesn't, or vice versa. Yeah, basically it is a BIOS thing, so you should be able to enable it in your BIOS if you can. Or for some people, a lot of people with ASRock motherboards have found that even though the option exists to be able to enable it or disable it, it doesn't actually work. So it's like going into a room, turning the lights on, and having a broken light bulb, and it just, you've turned the switch on, so you know there should be light, but it's still dark. And you're like, well, why have I not got that? But because you can't see the light bulb on the motherboard, or the setting, you're kind of a little bit in the dark, so to speak. Nice little segue into that, using light bulbs, light and dark. No, anyway, I'll get my coat. Patrick LaBelle, just checked Arctic A380, only have Chrome with YouTube and hardware monitor open. It draws 17.5 watts, but the temp is 55C. Yeah, so there you are, Patrick. There is a prime example. You've got a graphics card there, which is relatively low power, only has a single power plug and doesn't really need that, for up to 150 watts. And yeah, you're drawing 17.5 watts idle, which is awful, generally awful. It should be 5, if that. So yeah, definitely something that needs looking at, Patrick.
Umar?
Oh, hang on, there's a super chat come in there from O'Reilly. He says, Poppy!
Did she go on the desk?
She did. Is that on the screen? Yay, Poppy. Yeah, she did. She jumped in, slid past the camera, did a quick twirl of her butt, and then Foxtrot Oscared off. Thank you very much, O'Reilly. Right, where did I get to? Jason Woods, we did that one.
I'm gonna say hello again. Oh.
Hello to everybody as well, by the way. I should have said hello. You know that I say hello. Love all of you. Well, most of you. Pop is flying in. O'Reilly RTX 50 RX 5700 XT 50th anniversary edition, about 35 watts, dual monitors 4K but at 1440. So dual monitors at 35 watts with a bunch of stuff open. That's probably not too bad, to be fair. Still, certainly you're running multiple monitors at 4K. So yeah, you'd expect some. In theory, your wattage should increase as your refresh rate and your resolution go up, because there's more things for it to do every clock. There's another super chat from Michael T. It says, ask Mike anything, so tempting. You can ask me literally anything. I won't necessarily answer it, but you're more than welcome to ask.
We'll give it a go.
Yeah, well, I'll try anything once, and if I like it, I might do it again.
I've lost where I was now. Did you do Umar?
No, not got to Umar yet, so I'm just trying to scan through. O'Reilly says other sensors have it at 8 to 12 watts. That's interesting. Roderick Kennedy says, hey all, hope all are well. Yeah, not too bad. $, which is the $, AM4. David Underhill says, morning, AM4 rules. It does. Kieran Axonwood, well, if you decide to go back to AM4, I'll buy your 13900. To be honest, it's one of those things that 13900 has been a curse. Even though it was a gift. Thanks, MSI. Love you. But it has been a curse. I was really happy with my 13500. And I could keep that relatively cool without having to resort to kind of brute force cooling and going into the BIOS and changing loads of settings. I had this conversation with someone else earlier. It's like, literally, AM4 is great. You literally put the processor on the socket, you go into the BIOS, you turn on XMP, kind of you're done, even with a moderate 20 to 30 pound cooler. Whereas with 12th and 13th gen, if you want it to run cool and quiet, the chances of the stock cooler working are basically zero. So you're going to be looking at 360mm AIO or a decent air cooler just to keep it within normal tolerances. This is ridiculous. Nick Barnes, trouble is 11th gen CPU first to offer Gen 4. Yeah, that is one thing against 10th gen. Thanks, Ugly Bob, for the AM4 for the win. Lucky Man says you're better off with AM4, less problems. Yeah, the AM4, I guess to some extent, we're looking at this, or at least I'm looking at it with, I'm not looking with as much hindsight as you would normally, because when AM4 first came out, and the B350, the X370s and stuff, they weren't great. There were issues. But they were mostly things which were relatively straightforward fixes, such as the USB thing. That went on for a while actually until B450. And memory was never particularly great. The memory controller was always a little bit iffy to begin with, and you struggled to get sort of decent DDR4 speeds. But it was still a relatively efficient processor, and it didn't cost an absolute fortune, which was the beauty of it. Like, you could still pick up like a top of the line X370 motherboard from Asus, like the Primes. I had a couple of those. You could pick those up relatively easily, brand new, for like 70, 80 pounds, or a used one for like 50 bucks, which is awesome. Whereas now you try and get any of the X series boards for, or the Z series boards for less than 100 quid is virtually impossible. Des Duckers KFA2 4090, 26.5 watt. That's quite a lot actually for a 4090. I would have thought it would have been less than that. That's actually quite surprising, although it is an absolute beast of a card. So if you can afford to put a 4090 in your PC, the fact that your PC is using 26 watts when it's idle is kind of here or there. Skystalker, I love my AM4 rigs. I am so sorry to hear that AM5 is such a disappointment. It's not just AM5 though, that's the problem. It's like all new stuff. I think a lot of it is because of we are now getting the products which were in the kind of design and implementation stage at the beginning of the pandemic. And as the world went absolutely to shite, all sorts of crap went on then. And I'm pretty sure that disruption that had on the market, on people, people's attention spans, train of thought, etc., etc. Because it was always one of those things that at the beginning was like, oh my god, this is terrible. And then as it went on, it's like, well, okay, maybe it's not as bad, but it's still a pain in the ass. And then it got to the end and it's like, okay, let's just get on with life. And I think that initial, like, boom, this is happening across the world has had a knock-on effect. And the quality of products that you get these days for modern stuff is like, yeah, it's either rushed, crap, or they've just tried to pinch pennies wherever possible because money they lost, or I don't know what it is. But it certainly seems that that product lifespan cycle, the kind of 3 to 4 years that a product is in development for, it all seems to be now that it's all going really wrong, or at least doesn't have the same finesse or polish that we were used to. Ugly Bob says, looking to get a B550 motherboard for my next rig, sod AM5. Yeah, seriously, the MSI B550 Gaming Plus, 100 quid, thereabouts, 110. Stick on there like a 5800 or 5700, even a 5900 if you want to, and you've got a great platform for a good few years yet. As long as you don't want to keep on populating PCI Express slots, in which case, yeah, that's B550 for you. Aletta, I'm staying on AM4, 5900X and 6900XT are enough power for me. And you're probably going to be a lot more stable as well, because you've had the refinement and the polish. David Undrill, Ugly Bob, my B550 Tomahawk is great. Yeah, the Tomahawk was a good board. Overpriced when it came out, but now, no, actually still overpriced. Rick H, my i7 3770 is still running great. Yeah, that was back in the days when Intel weren't nuts. Well, they were, but less nuts. Matthew Day, does Linus care about a few more watts? No, clearly. He should, in theory, because he is a big multinational company, effectively, with his CEOs and all that kind of stuff. So, energy stuff is definitely a thing. Mookie MC says, this is why I now turn off the PC when I'm not using it. Power levels are more agreeable. Yeah. When my PC is off, it's much more agreeable. And actually, I haven't turned that one off, have I? It's just in standby. I should turn it off. Actually, I'm going to turn it off because my Intel ARC A770 is currently pissing through energy faster than I can buy it. If only I had a solar powered thing. Right, let's close that
You
down.
could start the coal fire up.
Who's been ping-a-linging my ding-a-ling?
I think it was mine.
Okay, nice one, Bobs. Let's turn that off, turn that off, close down, shut down. Thank you. Actually, grab my cup of
You
tea.
need to get through the questions.
All right.
Quite a few.
I do. You're right. Right, I'm gonna get through the questions. Stuart Cleary, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, pretty much. Already, I said I would not waste money on AM5. I am. I genuinely miss my old PC that I used to have up here, the old Techware VXR with the little MSI motherboard in there, my 3900 or 3600 or whatever I had at the time. It was just such a cool little system. It was like pretty much rock solid. Very rarely had any problems. I used to install all kinds of crap on there to do videos and do BIOS tweaks and all that kind of stuff, and it just worked generally. It was awesome. I do miss it. I really do. Martha today says sleep mode when I leave mine. Now that's the weird thing. The Intel Arc, even in sleep mode, still burn through like 40 to 50 watts of power, even if the monitor's off. Actually, even if you've got a monitor disconnected, which in theory your CPU clock cycles or GPU clock cycles should be at 0 because you're not actually creating an image. But something to do with the way that it kind of just keeps the clocks artificially high, so it's kind of ready to burst with something, seems to be the problem. But whether or not they can fix it with drivers, I don't know, because I've been struggling to get it to work this week.
Can I interrupt a second?
Yes.
Really random review says, Mike, the audio seems a little low again. I had to turn Bluetooth speaker up. Is he at the beginning or is he...
Oh yeah, if you're at the beginning, it was, because I did increase it. Is it still... 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's a little bit low. I'll jack it up a little bit more, just in case. We are at 5 dB. Let's chuck a few more dBs on the Barbie. Let's go to a +6. There we go. Still, yeah, it doesn't really want to peak. I don't know what's going on with this setup. I really don't. It's really annoying me. Bizarrely, if I plug the mic into the camera, it works perfectly and it's really loud. But every time I switch input from camera to camera, I lose sound and it doesn't want to come back. It's a good job I haven't got a tech channel where I do this kind of stuff. It'd be great. Andy Archer, yep, we addressed that kind of. Roderick says AM4 here too, been running since early 2020. Good stuff. Let's fast forward through. Paul Lamont loving his AM4. Awesome stuff. O'Reilly says might take a close look at AM6 and the paired GPU cycle. Stephen OBG, I love my new 65 watt Ryzen 7 5700X and AM4 of course. Kieran says I wanted the 13600 non-K, but the only place that has it is quite a PC and they want a massive premium. Sucks. Nick Barnes says, don't you think that tech is aimed for 4K gaming and high-end users where money no object? They make more money selling top-end items, so not bothered with money-conscious buyers. I don't know. I think in certain regions, the kind of the upmarket gamer is their kind of preferred clientele, but most companies can't rely purely on kind of like the USA and the European and UK markets, because there's a massive market they need to tap into for obviously China and the South Americas, India, massive markets. There is a £20 super sticker from Bubs. Thank you.
Put the light on for him.
Yeah, I think did it come on?
No, because it don't work.
Super stickers don't, do they? Thank you, Bubs L, for your
How do I do it?
press the button on the front of the plug thing.
Which plug is which?
The big one.
Oh yeah. So long since I've done it.
Calf's out of practice.
Oh my god.
Calf's out of practice. Send more money, people. Especially super stickers. Does that come up on there? It does come up on there, but for some reason it doesn't trigger the light bulb. I don't know. Stupid. Thank you very much for your $20. That's
AI, isn't it?
much appreciated. Yeah, AI sucks.
Right.
Bless your heart. Much appreciated.
You need to skim down to just the questions. I think,
All right, I'm skimming down. Bubs L. Oh, actually, as well, I should say, they're probably not watching, but thank you anyway. So, Joshua, who actually, I bought the motherboard off. So if you haven't watched Friday's video already, make sure you watch that. That was one of those random acts of kindness which just panned out very well for basically everyone concerned. So long story short, I bought a motherboard. We were unsure whether or not it was faulty or not. So I offered half price from what they were asking, and they basically had it as a kind of a doorstop for the best part of 2 years. So they hadn't been using it, but obviously saw there was some perceived value in it. And yeah, it was just a lovely story, and it worked out. Joshua was a lovely guy, and the icing on the cake, I actually sent him some more money on Friday just before the video went out, because I did promise in the video that if it worked out I would send more money. So I am a man of my word, so I sent him the extra money for the motherboard as a goodwill gesture and for him just being a generally great guy. And it seems in return he's actually signed up for YouTube membership as well, so no doubt I'll get my money back sooner or later. So that's worked out really well, especially for me. So I have a nice working motherboard, a new member and subscriber to the channel, and a few quid coming from YouTube every month. Happy days. That's worked out really well. There is another super chat from, oh, I'm gonna have to fast forward. Welly Bob. There we go. Says, does Mike regret selling off a good chunk of AM4 tech? Most definitely. 100%. Especially the X570 Tough Gaming motherboard that you currently have in your house, that I let go for a ridiculous amount of money. But I'm not bitter. I'm glad you got it, actually. I'm glad you're going to get used out of it. I'll buy another one. Bubs L saying, woot, happy to contribute, guys. I love the channel. That's very kind of you. Awesome stuff. Stuart Clary has come in with €20. Bless your heart, sir. Says, because Kath's laugh is great. Like my wife's, lol. Oh, good. Kath does laugh every now and then, mostly when she's trying to say bang when I'm trying to plug shit in. And she knows it scares me. It does.
I used to jump out at you all the time, but I don't do that anymore. You're a bit old for me to do it now.
Right, where do I get to? Nick Barnes says, great video Friday, can't wait for build. The build is on Monday. So you'll see the build on Monday. You won't see the build, but you'll see, it's done actually a really nice continuation. So we've gone through the stages of the BIOS update for the board, the tour of the board, or the unboxing of the board. We've then got how I actually came to get hold of the motherboard. And then on Monday's video, you're going to get to see it in its kind of final resting place and the reason why I actually bought it in the first place. So it's kind of gone full circle, which has worked out really nicely. Thanks to Kath for scheduling that for Monday. Otherwise, there'd been some other nonsense. Was that another super chat coming in that I just completely missed? Have I missed anybody's?
I don't think so.
Ugly Bob said, yeah. Or Ugly Bob. What? If I click on that, does that happen? No, it doesn't work. Shit. Let me see if I can find that.
Welly Bob says Poppy, not Mike.
Alright, okay. There we go. There's Ugly Bob's super chat. Sorry, Bob, I didn't put that up on the screen. 10 times 50p's for the Lecky meter. Did you know? No, I'm not going to go there. You can actually get rid of your electricity meter and replace it with your own. There is a very interesting thing. Legally, as long as the electricity is still being registered and recorded, doesn't matter who by, but as long as it's being actually recorded, your usage of it, you don't actually have to have an electricity meter from an electricity supplier.
Because they are only suppliers.
Because they are suppliers. You don't have a contract with them as such. It's a very complicated thing, but legally speaking, you can install your own electricity meter and potentially not pay for electricity, which is something which actually was the case in the early 1900s, where electricity first came into houses and they basically had it for free. But eventually got to the point where they want to register how much electricity people were using, so they installed meters. And at that point, electricity was still actually free, believe it or not. If you look into the history books, you'll see it. I'm not making this up, this is true. And the charge for electricity only came about, I think, towards the mid-1950s or 60s. I could be wrong. Might have been just after the wartime. Second World War. But yeah, electricity used to be free.
Oops, really, I'll just finish this beer and then I'll try swapping mine out.
If you're going to swap it out, make sure you use iFixit kit.
And also, has anyone got any questions? Could they put them again because you've skipped
Yeah, if
a
you've
lot.
got if you've got any questions, please put them in again, and I will try and answer them. If you
put-
can prefix it with a Q, so I can
or
scan through and see them,
type
that'd
in
be awesome.
capitals, maybe.
Yeah, or do uppercase. Do it all caps, as if you're shouting. Mookie MC, how is the water damaged PC working, Mike? It's actually doing really well. We've got the radiator, the AIO back in. It's back up in George's room, and it's actually better now than it was before. Now it's got to the point. It used to be if you hit it or touch the PC, even put the side panel on whilst the PC was on, it would reboot itself or turn itself off like some sort of trip. So yeah, what we did in the stream has worked out great. The PC seems much more stable, and most importantly, it's actually clean and doesn't have any water, and everything worked. So yeah, that worked out extremely well. George will get rid of it now. I fix it. Yes, explosions. Stuart Cleary says Tesla wanted the world to have free or cheap electricity, but the mean is put an end to that. Well, technically electricity is free. The generation and the distribution of electricity is free. It's only because we have meters installed and we have a contract with, well, we don't technically, but you have an implied contract with your electricity provider. There's many videos which will explain why you don't have to pay. Just look it up on YouTube. I know you don't believe everything you see on YouTube, but yeah. Or Odyssey. You can also follow us on Odyssey as well. That would be very handy of you. Very nice of you. Yes, electricity, in theory, as long as you've got the balls and you know the legal side of it, you don't have to pay an electricity bill. In theory, in the UK.
We haven't done it.
We haven't done it. I'm tempted though. Welly Bob says we are going for some solar panels. Yes, we know the ups and downs, but the cost is relatively cheap now, like the well priced. We will try. Also, batteries are selling any energy used back is 30%. Unused energy is 30%. Sounds like a plan. We always wanted solar panels, but I don't think we'd want them going back into the grid. We'll probably put it into some sort of battery storage. Ugly Bob, moral of the story: if your PC has a fault, get a cat to piss on it. That'll definitely do it.
That's what Welly Bob's doing. It's like also batteries are selling energy not used back is 30%.
Ah, right.
So
Okay.
that cost him 30%.
I don't know. I don't understand.
Right, carry on.
Right, where did I get to?
I'll
drink my drink.
Really random says I had an electric company break in to install a smart meter.
I did see that. That's mad, isn't it?
But I don't expect that warrant was actual legal.
Disgusting. I was talking to my dad about it this morning. Surcharges, standing charge, daily rob it. Yeah.
It is.
They should wear masks. It is pretty bad. Actually, I just realised that's not on. I'm so bad at my job. Actually, the lighting looks alright. Considering we actually haven't got the lights on.
It is quite dark in here.
It is actually quite dark. But this picture looks
Mike's
okay.
looking better by the minute.
Yeah, the darker it gets, the better I look.
Sorry, I'm only joking.
Andy Archer, can we send in wet PCs to repair Mike, as you're an expert in this field? Hey, why not? Oh, that reminds me, actually, I did message Glenn about your friend in Bristol who's got a PC and he's looking at, but I haven't heard back yet. So Glenn, if you're still watching, check your Discord, your private messages, because I've messaged you about it.
And if anyone in Bristol wants or needs anything fixed or looked at.
Yeah, if you're in Bristol and you want a PC looked at, and you want someone like me to have a look at it, I will do it for you, free of charge, as long as you don't mind it being on the channel. And if it's because you've got an Intel ARC graphics card and it won't go into low idle mode, you can shove it right up your ass. Not that happening.
Hold back, Mike.
Yeah, I'm not holding back.
Utopia, I think, is the next question.
Utopia.
Because understanding charges are absolute robbery. And then there's a Duckers under that.
I can't see that. I've got live chat on, but I can't see.
I'll read it to you. Do you use any USB stick boot tools to help repair Windows errors? I recently found out about tools called Ventoy and Medicat.
I have used USB tools for diagnosis. I've used the I'm trying to think what it's called now.
Other one.
Hyrin boot disk. I've used that a couple of times actually, and that's been pretty handy. I did actually use it on the Fix or Fail where we did on the Hewlett-Packard laptop, because I needed to get in there and scan some viruses and stuff in an offline capacity. So yeah, that worked out well. To be honest with you, a lot of those kind of boot CDs, mostly if I was going to use them, they would be for things like partitioning, that sort of thing, which to be honest with you these days I rarely do. So I don't really use them. Most of the diagnostics that I generally have been doing of recent times have been more, this PC does not work. Why does it not work? So because you can't actually boot anything, then a USB boot disk for that instance is rather useless. But for software wise, for removing viruses or changing your hard drive from MBR to GPT, repairing a broken boot partition, that sort of thing, they're really good for that. Oh, of course, virus scans offline, pretty decent for that. So no, I haven't had a great deal of usage of them, is the answer to that. Where did I get to? Milks Monster. Hey Mike, since I got my 6700 XT, my PC freezes randomly while gaming. I have found out that when I unplug my mini display for monitoring, the problem disappears. Any ideas? I would probably try using DDU, or Display Driver Uninstaller, and just basically nuke the system of all GPU drivers and hidden monitors as well. That can sometimes be an issue. It could potentially be if it's a mini HDMI or HDMI cable for the little monitor you're using, could be that causing a fault. It might just be the monitor itself. If it's plugged in directly to an HDMI, maybe try getting an HDMI, a DisplayPort to HDMI adapter, and try running over DisplayPort, see if that helps. It might do. I think DDU would be the first step. Ugly Bob, question. I'm behind the taxi rank at Temple Meads train station and I have a rash. Will you look at it for me? No, but I know a man who will. Where is Dave Aitken tonight anyway?
He might have given the rash.
Where do I get to? Oh, that's a good point. Skystalker saying at Milks Monster, does your mini monitor have a touch function? If it does, it could be the touch screen drivers. Those are known to be a little bit iffy at times.
Matthew Day might send you my build to finish.
That would be great. That would be great, because someone's got to finish it. You really need to get that done. Really random reviews. Hey Mike, any tips on how to fix HP laptop? The drive broke. I replaced it with a new drive, but it won't boot up. Or USB boot either. That's an interesting one. If you remove the drive, does it boot up, or at least boot into the BIOS? That would be the first thing I'd see, to see if there's actually any damage to the actual thing that the drive plugs into, potentially. Might be. And what was the issue with the initial drive? How did it break? Did it just stop being recognised? Because it could have had some sort of catastrophic failure from the power supply. I guess it is possible. Not entirely sure. But I guess, yeah, take the drive out. If it turns on, or at least you can get a BIOS screen without the drive connected, and then as soon as you connect the drive it won't even boot up, then I would say that pretty much says electrical fault on that rail to the drive.
Just interrupting. Welly Bob said for every £10 of electric you send the grid, they give you £3.
Ah, right, okay. I got you.
So they give you 30% back for...
It's almost as bad as YouTube.
Yeah. They must all be on the same commission rate.
Yeah. Andy Archer says I found one today called Wimpy E11 10.8 Sergei Strelec. Now, I should say as well, a lot of these USB boot recovery discs. Some of them are obviously going to be legit. There are a lot of them out there, or at least there's been known to be some out there, which have slightly dubious bootloaders and yeah, basically bad stuff in there. So effectively, even though they're trying to do a good thing, or at least you're helping you fix something, do make sure it's been verified, make sure the image, the hashes match against the originals, that kind of stuff. Downloading any kind of BIOS or ISO images from anywhere other than their intended source is a really bad idea. And actually, there was a report this week out on, I think it's on Bleeping Computer. I think it's Bleeping Computer, that there is an absolute ton of Windows 10 ISOs out there at the moment being circulated around the net, which have got a bootloader built into it for malware. So yeah, the people that download Windows 10 or Windows 11 like cracked copies, it just is not worth it. It really isn't. Where are we? Oh, I've scrolled too far, I think. Oh no, I haven't. I'm alright. Stuart Cleary says, I have a ridiculous amount of storage from deals these days, about 10 M.2 NVMe, 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte, and many SSD from 250 gig to 2 terabytes. Yes, I'm in a similar situation, not quite as many as that, but I'm getting a bit of a stock together up there at the moment. I have got 2 builds which I've been procrastinating on for a long time, which I've, due to this Intel driver thing, has been really busting my balls, because I want to do a build basically all Intel. So Intel motherboard, Intel processor, Intel graphics card, potentially Intel SSD as well, or NVMe drive. And that's something that I really still need to get done. But until I can get it to a point where I know that the Intel graphics card isn't going to be a problem for the potential purchaser of the system once it's done, I can't build a system with there being a known issue with it, or at least a known issue that bothers me, and trying to sell it, because it could end up being one of those boomerang PCs where it goes out, comes back, goes out, and it's just like, oh, I can't be dealing with that. Don't need the aggro, especially with like PayPal and eBay and all that sort of siding with the buyer. I could be a couple of £100 out of pocket straight away, which is not a good look. And also, because I can't do the Intel build, doing the other PC which I need to finish is also problematic, because it's like, well, do I use some of the bits in there and don't go down this all AMD or all Intel route? Do I just be flexible? But there's something like ADHD or autistic in my brain which says that because I've got an Intel motherboard, an Intel processor, an Intel graphics card, that they should all be together. And it really grinds my gears that I can't do that. I don't want to do all Intel and then stick an NVIDIA graphics card in, or AMD graphics card, because it's just, yeah, it's really messing with my mind. I don't want that to happen. Anyway, yeah, so I'm almost at the point of where I'm like kind of paralyzed by it all. Just need to get on and do something. Ah dear. Anyway, moving on. Welly Bob, question: what actually happened to your 6900 XT from Dodgy Dave? The 6900 XT is currently with eBuyer. They claim they've received it, so it's going through the RMA process. They'll be checking it out. Whether or not they're going to be able to fix it, whether they'll be able to replace it, I don't know. The coil whine on it was pretty bad. Even on Windows Desktop, it wasn't great. In Adobe Premiere, literally every movement of my mouse I could hear. And my PC's down in like a cubby hole in a case with the sides on, and like literally that much room either side. So I'm hearing the noise coming through the grill on the front of the Lian Li case, and it's not a cheap case, it's a decent case. So it must be quite loud for me to notice it. I'm literally there just moving around, even just scrolling down the timeline, I can hear. And it's just, it was driving me insane. So I took it out, had a look at it, and checked the fans, all that kind of stuff. There's 3 fans on the Trio Z, and the last fan on the end it had a weird noise to it. So the others, you touch them or do anything with them, they're fine, just sound like fans. But the last one, you press it and there's almost like a metal to metal noise. Now I don't think it's got anything to do with it. It potentially could be. It could be a short circuit in that fan, even though it's working, but it's maybe earthing or something, might be sending some feedback through the graphics card, etc, etc. So I don't know. I'll be interested to see what they make of it. They'll probably just turn around and say there's nothing wrong with it. Worst case scenario, they replace just the fan shroud or put a new fan in it, which, to be honest, I'd probably be happy with. I think that might reduce the noise anyway. Otherwise, if they say we haven't got any more 6900 XTs, or again, they might just turn around and say, right, we haven't got a 6900 XT, we've got XYZ, like, do you want this graphics card or that graphics card or whatever? I don't know. If they do a refund, that'd be great for Dave, because it was originally purchased by him for like 1200 quid. So they're not worth that now. Far, far from it. About £500 to £600 newish now. So yeah, I don't know. Even if they were refunded, I suppose the new price now, it would still be considered a win, I guess. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I was tempted yesterday. I was literally, no word of a lie. I hate when people say that, no word of a lie, because that means that they're lying normally. But this is genuine truth. Kath could attest to this. Yesterday, I was sat in my PC, literally like hands in, head in my hands like this, and I'm so frustrated by everything that's happened over the week. And it was like hot, stuffy, you know, just one of those really horrible weeks where nothing's gone right, everything's gone pretty much wrong. It's cost me money, it's cost me time, just getting really frustrated. And I was there and I was like literally inches away from just bawling my eyes out. Really had absolute tits full of it. And it was like, why am I doing this to myself? And I was on eBay, sorry, I was on Amazon, and I was looking at the 6800 XT, sorry, the MSI 6800 non-XT, which is the 16 gig version. The Trio Z is currently on there for £420, I think it was, or £428. And I'm like, I'm just going to buy a new graphics card. I've had enough pissing around with this. I've got work to do. I just buy a graphics card. And then I got down that rabbit hole of like, well, 420 quid. What else can I buy for 420 quid new? Then it was like, RTX 4060 Ti. God, what is going on in my life? So a little bit more money, I could have got a 4060 Ti, which actually is considerably worse in every way, shape and form than the RX 6800, but really good for Premiere and uses an absolute tiny amount of power in both idle and under full load. And it's like, do I want a super powerful card with 16 gigs of RAM, which also idles very well, or do I want an RTX card which is going to idle really low, it's not going to use a lot of power, it's going to be great for Premiere, but it's only got 8 gigs. And it was a really, really tough decision. And in the end, my brain just went round in circles so many times, I had a complete meltdown and went to bed. Didn't buy either. So yeah, that's kind of where I was at. I didn't realise buying another Intel graphics card after my previous one was going to send me into such a kind of semi-depression spiral. But it really, really has. But we move on. We try to. So yeah, that's where I'm at. My head is a mess. Literally, there's so many things like juggling around in my brain, trying to work out what I can do, how I can move forward. And it shouldn't be in this day and age where I've got various components knocking around that I have to spend even more money to rectify a fault which kind of shouldn't exist, because that Intel card should just work. That's what's frustrating me, the fact that I might have to spend a chunk of money so I can get back to work just because Intel can't pull their finger out and produce a card or produce a driver which actually does what it's meant to. Now again, it could potentially be a problem in my system, but that is the whole point of having a driver. A driver is designed to override system settings and tell the system, this is your parameters, please use them. That's why we use drivers. stressed. I can feel the tension in my shoulders still. Right, Aletta, question Mike. Several sources say that I should have a 1000 watt PSU with a 5900X, a 6900 XT, and a D5 pump with 9 fans. Do you agree? Well, I don't disagree and I don't agree, because I'm running a 6900X. Well, I was running a 6900 XT with a 3900K with a 1000 watt power supply. But realistically, I don't know. If you're putting it under full load all the time, then a 1000 watt PSU would be useful and would kind of keep you away from any of those potential transient spikes which might happen. But the 6900 XT doesn't really suffer from those particularly badly, and the 5900X, as far as I know, unless you're overclocking the snot out of it, doesn't either. So yeah, 1000 watts, you probably don't need that. I would need a PSU calculator. The 6900 XT generally, I think, for most models uses a triple 8-pin card. So that's 150 watts per plug. So that's 450 watts. So say 500 watts for argument's sake. The 5900X is what, 125 watts, I think? Or is it 110? Maybe 125. So that's going to peak about 150 to 180. So 500, 700, D5 pump, 9 fans, probably 800-ish. Yeah, under a full load with all the fans running at 100% and giving you a comfortable buffer of about 10 to 15%, 1000 watts is kind of there. But realistically, I would imagine idling, the 6900 XT idles at about 5 to 10 watts, and the 5900X, I'm not too sure. So if you've just got like a Chrome browser open or something, and well, multiple Chrome browsers, you shouldn't be drawing much more than, I don't know, 50 watts. So yeah, you don't need it. It's nice to have. The GPU is probably the thing there. Trying to get a decent PSU which actually has 3 dedicated 8-pin plugs on it. That's not easy to do.
Who are you answering?
A letter.
Oh, right, okay, sorry.
A letter from America. Take a look. Sorry. Is it a letter from America? I don't know. The Proclaimers. They sang something like that. Stuart Clary says Dave is probably at some posh food party with vol au vents or something. He might be. You never know. He does like the finer things. Oh, talking about boot SSDs, there was a bargain which I think I posted on our Discord. There was a ridiculous deal for an 8TB USB flash drive for $79.99, I think it was, or £70, but there was a 50% off offer. So you could get an 8TB flash drive. I'm laughing now. Why did I even go for this? For 35 quid. And there was other sizes available, down to like 10 quid or something stupid. And I think there was a 10TB or 12TB for like 40 quid. So being the mug I am, I ordered it. It was Amazon, and it was dispatched by Amazon, so you've got 30 days and all that kind of stuff. Clearly, when I plugged it in, I did a drive test on it, and yeah, it was just reallocated sectors all throughout it. So it was like a 512 megabyte, 512 SSD card in like a thing wired to USB. It looked too good to be true, and clearly it was, so I plugged it in. But yeah, basically it's been sent back. We've already been refunded, and I marked it on Amazon as a scam, so hopefully no one else will fall for it. I think Nick Barnes bought one as well. I think a couple of other people did as well. So yeah, if your mileage is better than mine, I'm seriously doubting it was. The first thing as well that jumped out, as soon as I opened up the packaging, I noticed that the kind of USB enclosure was completely sealed, which is always a kind of red flag. If it's completely sealed, there's a reason why they want it sealed, and it's probably not for waterproofing, because it's a USB device and it has a USB plug, so hard to waterproof those without a plastic cap. But yeah, so that was a scam. That's gone back. That was another thing that's gone wrong this week, which was rather annoying. Time wasting more than anything. But and I was really concerned about plugging it in as well. So I'm thinking, if this is some sort of Chinese scam, if it's got malware on it or a boot thing, with a bootloader or whatever, then I could end up screwing my PC. So I spent about 2 hours deliberating on that, whether I should plug the bloody thing in or not. It's not been a good week. It really hasn't.
Right, go downwards on the questions.
I'm going downwards. I'm always getting behind. Actually, what says he'll be at some local men with beards round table where they... I know. I haven't gone that far. Sorry. That was funny, ugly Bob. Well done. Let's see. Questions. I'm looking for the cues. Firestorm says, have you tried overclocking your A770? No. Not a chance in hell. It's actually a tell lie. I did move a slider, increased it, and immediately it froze. So, no. I've not looked into any real thing of doing that. I literally just moved the slider. Stupidly, in the slider, there isn't an option to undervolt, only add voltage. And core speeds, there's no way to reduce them. If there was some sort of thing like where you could tell the GPU that when it's idle, or, you know, like in AMD driver, you've got those various states, like the P states, or whatever they call them, power states. It would be great if there was a power state configurator. So rather than the GPU being at like 600 megahertz idle, you could reduce it down to like 200 or 300 megahertz. And the RAM is always clocked at 16,000. So it's like GDDR6 at 16 gigabit per second, whatever it is. So yeah, that would be great. If you could reduce the RAM, the clocks, it would be great. It would work fine. But it won't let you do it. It's just constantly stuck on that high clock speed. Right, where do I get to? Mick Wood says, hi Mike, colour very psychedelic tonight. Oh, is that because of that behind me?
No, it was because of the lights being on.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, got you. David Under says, what's that?
It was George sneezing.
Oh, right. Fucking hell. Excuse my French.
What's so wrong with you tonight?
I am. I'm a mess. My nerves are shot. Honestly, I'm wrecked. I need a holiday. I've done fuck all this week as well. Excuse my French. I've got so little done this week. It's been absolutely mad. I was doing something earlier and I was like, hands were shaking. I'm a nervous wreck. I need some Valium or something.
Done all this week.
Thank you, George.
Have you actually though?
No, I've done some things.
He's cooked me a nice bacon and egg sandwich.
I have cooked a bacon and egg sandwich once this week.
Twice, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, technically twice. Did well there. Right, let's move on. I'll try to scroll without missing things. Mick Words says, hi Mike, Kath and all. How you doing, Mick? Cheers, buddy.
Right.
Captain Meets Adventures, message retracted. Sounds ominous. William Bodie, question. Got two Western Digital M.2. First, now I find out one is SSD, the other is NVMe. Gotcha. But in user benchmark, the SSD is only 2% slower. Is that good or bad? Yeah, it's probably bad. Depending on the drive, well, an M.2 SSD in theory shouldn't transfer more than, I think, 550 megabytes per second read, and writes would probably be about 50 to 100 megabytes slower in general. Sometimes the drives are very close, so you've got like 550 to 500, because SSDs are quite good for that. So if your NVMe drive is only 2% faster, that would be less than 1 gig per second, which really, even a PCI Express Gen 3 x 2 drive should still normally be putting through somewhere in the region of about 1500 megabytes per second. So about 3 times as fast as your SSD. So potentially something's not quite right there. It might be some PCI Express sharing. It might have for some reason dropped down to PCI Express Gen 2, which would then make that about right. So if it is Gen 2 times 4 or Gen 2 times 2, you probably would get a bit of a discrepancy there. Probably need to look in the BIOS, check the settings, or if you've got any expansion cards in PCI Express slots, then that might do it. But yeah, that doesn't sound right. Although if you're doing the testing and you're transferring files from one to the other, then actually, yeah, user benchmark isn't always the best, to be honest with you, for that sort of thing. I would be tempted to get Crystal Disk. Crystal Disk is probably the better one for testing that. User benchmark for me sometimes just says there's no drive attached. It's like, well, there is, because you're using it to run the rest of the tests. Hopefully that answers your question. Freedom House 1984. Hi Kath. Hope you and Mike are well. We are not bad. Well, I've had a shit week, but Kath's been alright. Navjeet Singh. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Question: B650M mortar Wi-Fi. Is it good for Ryzen 7 1700X and RTX 3080? Yes, it is. Also, I have 850 watt gold power supply. Repeating question, as missed the PSU in the previous one. Yeah, I think that's going to be absolutely fine. 3080 is going to be drawing. What's the 3080 got on it? 2 8-pin connectors, so 300 watts. So yeah, absolutely fine. The 7700X often underload. I've done this today actually with Cinebench on here. It was pulling about 136 watts, I think it was. Actually, I got it on the board there. Where is it? Yes, 130. Can't read very well from here. 136.05 watts, and with the Johnsbow cooler, and 136.81 watts with the AIO. So, yeah, 850 should be fine. Hopefully that answers your question, sir. I'm assuming that's a sir, Navjeet. I don't know. Sir, madam, whatever. Hopefully this answers your question. Craig Sankey. Hi Mike, I have the following and looking for a new case and new graphics card to play games like FHV. What is FHV? Don't know what that is. FHV.
I don't think of FHM. Is that still even?
I was thinking Final Fantasy, but that's, the numbers are a lot higher. Then I was thinking like GTA, and that's different letters. Can you recommend or suggest either i7 8700K, new case and new graphics card? With the 38, with the 8700K, you're going to be in a difficult situation there because you're on PCI Express Gen 3, so getting a Gen 4 graphics card is not going to give you quite the results that you would probably want. It didn't say what graphics card you've currently got or what you're using, so I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one. I would say probably
Forza Horizon 5.
Forza Horizon 5, got you. I would probably be looking at maybe something which isn't going to be too disgruntled by using PCI Express Gen 3 against 4. So arguably RTX 2070, if you can pick one of those up, relatively inexpensive. RTX 2060 or GTX 1080. GTX 1080 actually surprisingly still does really well, especially in games like that. But again, you haven't said what you've got in there at the moment. If you go with anything too modern, you're going to be at the mercy of the bandwidth available and also the fact that it's PCI Express Gen 4. And some of the newer cards don't play well with PCI Express Gen 3. But then if you're planning on a new motherboard and processor at some point, then it kind of starts to make sense again.
William Body's asked, can you write the benchmark programs you said?
Yeah.
Where are they? I can type them in.
I'll try and put a link. It's Crystal Disk Mark and
DISK.
Yes.
All one word, yeah?
Yeah. I'm sure it's Crystal Disk Mark. There's two. There's Disk Mark and Disk Test, I think. I think Disk Mark is the one that benchmarks. Disk Test is the one that shows you like drive health, etc.
Wrong. They won't let me go back with my cursor on this stupid phone. Let me go on.
Right. Where are we going? Oh, I've gone too far. So I've got you that.
Crystal disc mark.
Yeah.
And
I think that's probably it. That's probably what we need, really. Crystal disc mark. Forza Horizon, everyone's saying, of course, yeah, why don't I understand that?
because you're happy.
Forza Horizon, I might be in a minority here, and I often find myself in a minority. I didn't like it. I thought it was very forgettable. I played it because I bought the Game Pass, Xbox Game Pass, and I played it for a little while, but it doesn't have much depth to it. I didn't feel personally. I was doing like this story-driven thing, and it's like, I'm really bored of this already. It certainly isn't Wreckfest. I think Wreckfest actually is the better game, and the handling and physics, I would say, are arguably much better as well. Forza is more of like a kind of arcade racer, whereas Wreckfest, I feel, it is an arcade racer, but it has a very strong physics element to it, which I prefer, personally. Craig says currently have a GTX 1650. Yeah, that's going to be a kind of sticking point, really. You probably, a 1660 Super is going to be an upgrade from the 1650 for sure, but it's really close to probably what you've got. Probably a 2060 or a 2070 would be a kind of a noticeable jump, or you could probably get away with RTX 3060 or 3060 Ti. Roderick Kennedy says Crystal Disk Info. I think Crystal Disk Info is the one that tells you about the drives, yeah, and Crystal Disk Mark is the one that benchmarks. So it's Crystal Disk Mark is the one you're going to want. Disk Info would be good actually, because it might tell you what or how you're connected. Domus Mark, how you doing? Says Evenal, how you doing? Irie Wolfman, Forza Horizon 5, buy an Xbox. Yeah, good point. Where else we get to? Alessa says that Amazon has a 1000-watt 80+ gold Seasonic for $225. Power supplies, I feel personally, here in the UK have got really expensive. Actually, I'll have a quick look.
Don't start on that.
No, I won't go to... I actually sent one power supply back this week, which is a pain in the ass. Yeah, Royal Mail, Parcel Force.
Everyone's rubbish.
Since we've had our road resurfaced, no one wants to drive down it, it seems. Unless they're driving at like ludicrous speed. I'm sure I saw Dark Helmet actually going down our road at ludicrous speed. I'm pretty sure I saw that. Although it might be these floaters, I don't know. Could be either. But enough of that. You lot potentially think that I'm some kind of ridiculous shill. And potentially you could be right. But I'm also someone who likes to have a bargain. So this week, now this isn't sponsored and they haven't sent them to me. Just to be completely clear and transparent here, this is all purchased with my own money. Well, technically it's partly probably some of your money as well, but it's coming out of, technically it's coming out of Cap's bank account because it's her Amazon account. Anyway, I digress. So this was on offer. This is the GameMax Real Power Rampage 500-watt power supply. This at the moment is the best value power supply in the UK at 500 watts with bronze rating. I know it's hard to believe, but it is. £33 from AWDIT. 33 quid, 500 watts, 80 plus bronze. A reasonably quiet fan, which is quite important to me. It is modular. Sorry, it is captive, not modular, so you don't get a great deal for your money. But actually, look inside. It's using TK caps. Japanese TK caps, which kind of I've investigated a little bit. They're not trash. There's not people on the internet screaming saying don't use TK caps, they're bloody awful. Actually, TK caps are used in a lot of Japanese audiophile stuff or audio equipment, so surprisingly very good caps for what it is. But 33 quid, not bad at all. But sometimes 500 watts and not being modular isn't enough. So again, GameMax, this isn't sponsored, I'm going to say it again. This is their Rampage 750 watt, so this one is 80 plus still 80 plus bronze, but it is modular, or at least semi-modular, so you're going to use your 24 pin and your 8 pin EPS regardless, aren't you? Let's be honest. So having fully modular is kind of a bit pointless for this level of power supply. But 750 watts, semi-modular, 80 plus rated, again using those TK caps, which again, not too bad. I think I paid about 45 quid for this, maybe 47. But for 700 watts, semi-modular, 80 plus bronze, there ain't much that it can beat it. Although, having said that, Seam at Night, I think this week, or today, actually tonight, posted a deal. There's an MSI one available in the UK at the moment, 750 watt. That's semi-modular as well, for 50 quid. So that might be worth it. This has got a 2-year warranty, I think this one is. The MSI one's got a 5-year warranty, so I might potentially buy one of those as well. I've got these in to do the builds that are waiting to be done, which I've been paralysed in action by this Intel graphics card. So yeah, you get the general idea. And if that wasn't enough, there's another GameMax power supply. Now this one is ridiculous. This is a 550 watt. This is gold. Only a 1-year warranty, bizarrely, but it is actually fully modular. 550 watt, gold rated, fully modular. And this was like 50 quid as well. So it's like, seems like a bit of a no-brainer. Now the stupid thing is with this, is there is a downside. The fan is quite noisy, which is a real stupid thing because the whole point of this being RGB is the fan. If only they'd gone for a slightly more expensive or lower noise fan. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to end up probably taking the RGB fan out of there. I'm tempted to replace it with a standard 140mm ARGB fan and see what happens. If I can make it as good as silent as possible with a reasonably cheap 140mm fan, then I think that's the way to go. Most people will live with it, but for some people it's too loud. I know Kieran, who's possibly still watching, I don't know, he's had a few of these as well, and they are a little bit on the noisy side, the fans. So if you like your quiet PC, probably not for you, but if you want an half decent power supply which is gold rated for like 50 quid or less, then actually not a bad shout. So there is my GameMax shilling. Like I said, they haven't sent them to me. I've actually had to pay for them. But just so it shows that even though I do reviews for this stuff, I will actually go and buy it out of my own money, or Kath's money, or your money, whatever it is. So I do use them, and I actually put them into systems that I buy and sell. So it's not like, if it was for my own stuff, it would be probably go even a little cheaper. But if it's stuff I want to sell, you don't want it coming back on you. And I have a lot of faith in these power supplies, certainly more than I do in the ARC game ones, which were very noisy and have been returned. Anyway, there you go. I've got to try not to scroll too far now. Oh, too late, did it. Lord Moss Gaming. Hi Mike, looking to upgrade my Ryzen 5 3600 CPU. Thinking along the lines of Ryzen 7, any thoughts what would be a decent upgrade for sim racing as it will be paired with a 3070 Ti? I'd probably go with the 5800X. I think that's probably the best bang for buck at the moment. I wouldn't necessarily go with the X3D chips. I think they're still a little bit overpriced for what they are. But yeah, 5800 or 5700, I think you'd be absolutely fine with. Wendy Bob says, seen 3060 Ti online for 289 this week. I did see those as well, actually. I was very tempted to buy another. There was the MSI Ventus X3, but the Ventus cards are awful. I don't think, if I was spending a reasonable amount of money on a GPU, I think I would avoid the Ventus cards, unless it's like a 1650 or 1660, that sort of card. Those Ventuses are generally okay because they don't need that much extra cooling. But I think once you get to like the 2070, the 3060 Ti, 3060s, those kind of cards, they do need a little bit of extra cooling, especially on that GDDR6. So quite often the Ventus cards, they concentrate more on cooling the GPU rather than the RAM. So often there's areas of RAM which just basically aren't cooled at all with the Ventus coolers. So although it's cheap, I would probably either go with another model or make some mods to it so you can actually cool the RAM. Lord Moss Game, would you be able to advise on a CPU cooler as well? Yeah, definitely. Well, like I said a little bit earlier, you've got the Thermalright SE214XT. You've also got things, that's ID cooling, sorry. You've got the Thermalright
What is that?
BA120 Dark Helmet
Ah,
from Spaceballs the movie.
I've never seen it.
The yeah, any of the Assassin range really from Thermalright are going to be fine. The 5800X is one which does tend to kind of spike up in temperatures a little bit, so ideally something slightly bigger might be useful. That's actually not a bad shout either. That looks really nice. I'm not sure if you guys can actually see it in there. That is Ugly Bob sent that to us. Bless his heart. That's the Johnsbow A5 ARGB. It's got a very kind of deep cool look to it, and actually a nice plastic plate on the end there. So in there it works really nicely, I think. Let me know what you think. I don't know. I think it looks pretty good. That's right. The only thing I've noticed, the fan, there is a little bit of a noise to the fan, but it's not overly distracting. With the side closed is fine, but if I stop the fan, it's more the sound of air going through the actual fin stack, which I think I might be able to adjust slightly by moving the fan slightly up. So I might go with that. At the moment it's in its lowest position. Still excellent RAM clearance and performs well. And it does keep the 7700X relatively under control, even under Cinebench, which I was quite surprised.
Super chat.
Super chat! Who was that from? Lord Moss Gaming. Bless you, sir. Thank you for both recommendations. You're very welcome, and thank you very much for a super chat. You don't have to send a super chat for recommendations, but we do appreciate them nonetheless. Skystalker says GameMax PSUs are... Is that aren't my or are my? There's a T in there, which could be attached to something or just could be a random typo. Low cost budget option. I quite like them personally. GameMax PSUs. Craig Gaming says AWD is just up the road from me. They've actually got some half decent deals on quite often, but it's very hit and miss, I find. Some of the stuff is really not a great deal, but some things like the power supply. Originally when I bought it, they said, oh, we're terribly sorry because there's been such a good price and there's nothing else available really in the UK. They're a little bit backlogged on orders, so would I mind waiting for the next delivery to come in? So yeah, cool, not in any hurry. And then they sent it through and it was absolutely fine. So communication wise with AWD IT was actually pretty good. After sale service, quite impressed with that. There we go. Sky says, I have used many of GameMax PSUs and they've all worked well. Yeah, other than the RGB ones, I would say most of them have been pretty good. Even the GP500, which was originally in Cat's PC, that went off in another computer and is still running to this day. Sorry, I was looking at the weird clouds. Right.
I'm not my friend anymore because I don't watch Star Wars.
Oh God.
Ever.
Firestorm says, got my boy, the 850 watt. My bad, 700 watt. That's close enough. Skystalker, PSUs are a good investment. Get a good one and keep it through several upgrades. Only now are they changing a bit with the new graphics connectors and stuff. Yeah, true.
Daisy, can I open the window a bit? It's a bit cold, a bit hot on me.
Ugly Bob's gone gold. I'm not singing that. Irie Wolfman.
I typed that on the wrong one.
All right.
Maybe.
Irie Wolfman, aren't there some dodgy fake GameMax PSUs a while back? Yes, there was, definitely. I'm not sure what market that was on, because Tech Yes City reported on it, and yeah, it turns out that someone had been kind of making power supplies and putting GameMax labels on. I don't believe they were sold by GameMax themselves, but sold through some third party on possibly AliExpress or something. or Alibaba. I'm not entirely sure. I would have to watch the video again. But at the time, it was one of those times where I just finished, I think, doing the review possibly on the F15. And I was putting out a video saying, like, this is cool, GameMax are a pretty decent company, come out with this case, etc. And then that came out and it was like, ah, damn. But yeah, they were just using, well, it appeared to be a random company using GameMax badging. Now, it's not entirely unheard of for companies to make something a forgery of their own. Now, I'm not saying for any minute here that GameMax did that, and certainly GameMax UK wouldn't. GameMax is one of those weird companies where the main company is its own entity, and if you want to trade or sell GameMax products in another region, then you basically you apply to it. It's a separate company effectively, much like MSI. You've got MSI UK, MSI USA, MSI Taiwan, etc. They have different companies, and they're not all the same company. So if you buy from MSI UK, you're not buying from MSI Taiwan, although originally it's come from there. It's just another company using the trading name.
Franchise.
Not quite a franchise, but kind of along similar lines, I would guess.
Freedom House.
So yeah, so the power supply thing was a little bit of a weird one. They were not very good at all, and they were using a GameMax logo which looked slightly sus. So I don't know whether that was intentional by a sub-branch of GameMax. I have no idea and couldn't say. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they're unlikely to tarnish their own brand. If they were going to sell dodgy, cheap PSUs with a brand on, surely they'd have been better off using someone else's brand name. But I don't know. Forgeries happen a lot. You get fake Rolexes, you get fake graphics cards. Why not fake power supplies? Skystalker says, depends on the connector that the fan uses. Mike, GameMax may use a proprietary fan. Yes, they do. A lot of companies do. So I've looked at the wiring already. The ARGB is 2 wires, and the fan is 2 wires. So I'm guessing there's a 5 volt for the addressable RGB. There is a data for the addressable RGB, and then you've got a 12 volt plus and a 12 volt negative, and the negative is a shared negative for the 5 volt and the 12 volt possibly. I don't know. I need to have a closer look at it, but I would like to change the fan out for sure, or just take it out altogether and just wing it. Firestorm says Thermalright Peerless Assassin 120 SE, the cheap cooler. Yeah, it's pretty decent as well. About a few of those. Really random views. I swear by Corsair RM series. Yeah, I think arguably Corsair's RM series is a very, very good high-end power supply, and I'm reasonably sure they're Seasonic, or at least they used to be, or they're Seasonic power supplies repurposed by Corsair, or Corsair have given them a spec to work to, and Seasonic have produced them.
Bob says those change your PSU fans take great care doing so.
I will.
Not you, but tell everyone.
Yeah, if you're changing a power supply fan, obviously use a lot of care. You can have a lot of built-up power in there in the capacitors, because capacitors are basically sponges for electricity. So if you're not sure what you're doing, there are very, very strong currents in there and mains voltage. So you should never ever take one apart and do anything with it unless you're a trained professional. And even then, you probably shouldn't.
And use your skull shaver first.
Yeah. Make sure you use a skull shaver first and shave off any hair so before it goes like it does on what's it called? What's the where that kid's stuck on his Home Alone? That kid.
He's probably our age.
Patrick LaBelle, my GameMax GM700 has seen one of its PCIe connectors melt in my 6700 XT. Good thing the card did not suffer any damage. I'll try to get one with warranty. I think the GM range, I think that is the one that they like suggest to avoid, I think it is the GM range. The GP or the GM range. Is it the GM or GP? The GP range, I think, is one of the two is like really bad on the PSU tier lists. It might be the GM 700 or the GM range anyway.
Can I just interrupt because I've seen this question come up before and you've missed it.
Yeah.
Really random reviews. Have you ever heard of AJAZ custom keyboards?
Yes, AJAZ keyboards. I think I've got one here.
I got one today to try out. It's crazy good for 80 quid. I'm getting into custom keyboards.
Yeah, AJAZ. I'm sure. No, actually, did I have AJAZ? What's that one I got up there from Ugly Bob? The Fizz.
Ugly Bob would be that.
It's up there somewhere. I don't think I'm going to stand on the desk to get it though. Fizz.
Ask Ugly Bob.
I'll have to have a look. Ajax. I'm sure Ajax. The Fizz. I'm going to look it up now.
Get a cap on your shoulders.
Ajax. Oh no, Red Dragon. Red Dragon Fizz. Ah yeah. They do. There's a Red Dragon K617, which has been modified with stock Ajax switches.
So lazy.
So that's right, yeah. Ajax AK33 white mechanical keyboard. These look alright. Keyboards are a really, really, really difficult thing to do videos on, because when mechanical keyboards and stuff first came out and you had the options for like changing keycaps and when the first hot swap ones come out, it was like all a bit exciting. But now it's gone. You've got like your bog standard cheapo keyboards, then you've got your kind of branded and sub-branded mechanical keyboards, and then there seems to be like this massive gap in the middle between that and then the custom keyboard market, where like entry-level keyboards, I don't know, £20–30. Then you've got your kind of semi-custom ones for like 50 to 100, and then you've got this really big gap where it's like 250 to £1,000 ish. It's like £300 on a keyboard is nuts. But the Ajax ones, if they're relatively inexpensive, I will take a look and see what the deal is.
Really random says it included spare switches, keycaps, dampers, coiled cables, and everything. I was very impressed.
Oh, that's pretty good. I'll have to take a look at that Ajax.
Did I write that down?
Yeah, write it down.
Because you won't remember, will you?
Not that I want. Not that I want another keyboard. I've got so many keyboards, it's ridiculous. And I got to the point now where I almost save my keyboards for best, which is such a stupid thing to do. But like, I've got this thing, which is great because it's wireless, and I can just chuck it underneath there when I'm done with it. I don't have to worry about it because I can just throw it on the floor and it bounces, and it's a soft touch, so it doesn't make noise when I'm streaming or typing or whatever. So it's pretty handy for that. On my main PC desk, because it's an all MSI PC, I've got my MSI GK71 Sonic, which Ugly Bob kindly sent over. That was awesome. So that again, pretty quiet switches, which doesn't annoy Calf too much, so that stays over there. This one up here, which I very rarely use apart from YouTube videos.
But you notice me turning the volume up every time you type.
Yeah, that's the GK50 from MSI, because again, MSI PC. And up there, I've got my Razer keyboards and a few others. I want to put together a nice little Razer PC, but I'm looking how I can do it. I want to find an ecosystem where I can tie in my Razer, because I've got the Razer Viper Ultimate, I've got the Huntsman Mini.
Shut that window.
Sorry.
Because you're going to hit that in a minute where he pops.
Yeah, so
onto me.
I'm trying to find an ecosystem that Razer works with so I can do everything together. And I think potentially which motherboard? There was a motherboard I was looking at and it works really well with Razer. Again,
really, or in theory?
that's another thing which is happening this week. Yeah. The NZXT motherboard that I bought, the N5Z690, the RGB support on it is horrendous. Like, it appears that RGB RAM just doesn't get recognized. So you've got your NZXT CAM software, which controls basically all the ports on the board, but they're all custom ones apart from one, I think. So you can't control your RAM until you install another motherboard software. If anyone else has got one of those NZXT N5 or N7 motherboards, if you can get your RGB RAM to work without installing additional software, please let me know how you did it. Because it looks like all the RGB RAM we've got doesn't appear to be compatible with it, which is like, why is this a thing? Is that a thing? RGB, does NZXT CAM software not support RGB RAM? If you use it, let me know. Where do we get to? Craig Gaming says, seen the video on the fake GameX PSUs, which did put me off the RGB PSU version. That's understandable. Very understandable. I was quite upset by it. Well, not upset by it, but I was annoyed by it because it's like, they're pretty good. Then you get someone come along and do a bad one, and it's like, then suddenly all GameX, they basically get tarnished, don't they? The brand, unfortunately. You always remember the bad stuff. You never remember the good stuff. It's a human condition. If there's ever anything brilliant, you very rarely remember it. But it's bad things. There's like a thing wired in our brains which you remember it. And it's like that kind of fight or flight thing. So if something's bad, your memory stores it so you don't make the same mistake. At least that's the theory.
Remember when we used to use Just Eat years ago? And we'd go for the worst rated ones because they had something to prove to get their ratings up, whereas the best ones didn't.
That is true.
And we always went for the worst rated ones.
Really run reviews. My AIO is GameX, and it's solid 2 years, still at 38C. Awesome stuff. Yeah, GameX makes some half decent stuff. It's a really weird brand, depending on which part of the world you're in. If you're in like the UK and Europe, it's kind of quite a bog standard stuff. But if you go to like the Asian markets, some of the GameX stuff is like really weird.
It's even hard to find links for them on the American Amazon, to be honest.
Yeah. Right, where do I get to? Franchise Pip-Boy. Yeah, Welly Bob says, yeah, those changing PSU fans take great care. Stupidly, actually, I'm a moron. Because quite often when I'm doing the PSU reviews, I'll literally plug it in here with the fan running and then take it apart to look inside to get close-ups of the caps and stuff. But I am careful not to touch anything. But I possibly could do, so I should properly discharge the power supply before doing so. So yeah, be careful. Don't do what I do. Do as I say. Alpha Indigo, how you doing? I mainly use Corsair TX series, all of them bronze, and no issues. Yeah, Corsair TX power supply is pretty decent, especially the modern ones. David Andrew says, yeah, Corsair's higher quality units use Seasonic as their OEM. Awesome stuff. Mick Woods, Be Quiet Corsair and Seasonic PSUs in use at the moment. Nice stuff.
Hey, Flamey.
Mr. Super Goofy says Corsair uses CWT now. I think they always did. They always did for some of the mid-range ones. I think the TX series and possibly the CX series, I think they're CWT. David says at least you won't need CAF to go bang when the PSU will supply the bang itself. That is a good point. Yes.
I'm just making you immune to it when it happens.
That's it. Yeah, just training. Aletta says, yeah, right, PSU capacitors can retain enough amperage to kill you even when unplugged. Don't open them unless you're a trained tech. So the next time I open one, I'm going to throw it to Kath to get her to catch it after wetting her hands. If that comes up in the news at any point that that's actually happened, ignore this conversation we're having right now.
And make the video private.
Yeah, I'll make the video private. That never happened.
You chuck it in the bath with me or something instead.
Catch this power supply when having a shower, Cav. Where did that... Oh. Really random views. GK50 is an awesome keyboard. It is, but it's very noisy. I've got the white box switches, I think, in this one. Remember rightly? Yeah, white box switches, and they are very clicky, very loud. I do notice a difference massively.
You're loud at everything you do. On that stool across the room. And
Craig Gaming says I've got the Royal Kludge RK68 keyboard at the moment, UK version, $41.99.
Do you ever lick the capacitors?
No. Got 15 quid off of Amazon. Put in keycaps to it too. I still want the Wamier K87. Yeah, the Royal Clutch, there was quite a big following around those. Probably still is as well. I've not looked into it in a long time. But that used to be the thing, like Royal Clutch was a name thrown around all the time. Good stuff, from what I gather. Letter says, according to Google, Seasonic makes most of Corsair's mid and lower end PSUs. Didn't know that. Yeah, Corsair and CWT, pretty much, I think that sums up almost all of it, their entire range.
Mookie Muck says, I wonder if anyone is going to upgrade the ARGB software side for EVGA graphics cards.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. No idea. EVGA is one of those companies now where I think they're losing their place. Now they've stopped doing graphics cards and they're just doing like keyboards, mice and PSUs, I think. They probably do other stuff as well, but that's the things that are ringing in my head. Now that they don't do graphics cards, it's almost like, almost immediately I started seeing EVGA keyboards and mice like very heavily reduced in price from various retailers. Almost like clearance level pricing. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to EVGA as a company, because I think they're starting to lose their relevance if they haven't already. You could argue they have. The fact that they stopped doing modern graphics cards is basically their own death now, unless they have something to fill that gap. Motherboards, I know they do motherboards, like particularly high-end ones, but realistically, if they're not doing the kind of GPU overclocking, then what's the point of doing motherboard overclocking?
That must have come in at some point.
Oh, thank you, Colin Hilton, for your donation.
Sorry,
over PayPal. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Kath's just told me, so if you did it a long time ago, my apologies. Kath's useless. I will sack her. Although she's a volunteer, so I'll probably keep her around.
I'm like Rick Astley. I just make the tea.
Yeah.
So he's never going to give me up.
Freedom House 1984 says, I like clicky. I might have to get one. If you want a clicky keyboard, yeah, the GK50 box white is clicky as all hell. It's basically, I would say, probably the same as Blue's Cherry Blue. William Bodie, I love my Unicomp Model M keyboard so much it stays in the box after 2 weeks of use. Put it away every night. Tristan G says EVGA stopped producing NVIDIA GPUs. Yeah, I know, that is why I kind of feel that they've kind of lost their place now in the kind of hierarchy of manufacturers. I think if you're one of those kind of manufacturers of a high level and you are kind of one of the players, if you're not making either an AMD or an NVIDIA graphics card, or you're not making graphics cards at all, and that is kind of one of your key business areas, it seems really weird. It's like going into a newsagent and then stop selling newspapers. Like, yeah, you can get all your other stuff there, but you kind of went there for the news. Like with EVGA, they do some pretty decent stuff, but most people are going for EVGA for the graphics cards. I guess some for the power supplies, but EVGA power supplies probably not worth writing home about for a lot of them. Like years ago, you had like the G3s, I think it was, or G4, G5s, whatever. They were like the go-to power supply for a lot of people, but more modern times, I don't think they've got quite the same impact as they did. Venji says, I'm still in love with my fully decked out Mode Sonne. Pretty amazing keyboard. Not going to lie, daily driver for a few months now. See, I've really struggled with keyboards because it depends what I'm doing. If I'm playing games, then I must have arrow keys and a number pad and a normal layout, because my muscle memory, like, you got to think, I'm not a young person anymore. I've been using this, basically this layout, since probably like 1988. So even if you, well, if you round it up a bit, say 1990, it's when I first started using an IBM mechanical keyboard, like the original one. That is 90. It's like nearly 35 years of muscle memory, and that's really hard to overcome, especially when you're typing pretty much most of the day. So yeah, it's also great for gaming as well. Because I'm left-handed, I use my mouse left-handed, so my right hand is up, down, left, right. I don't use WASD. So up, down, left, right. Shift is for run. Control, or right control, is for duck or crouch. 0 and I, or dot, sorry, 0 and I. 0 and dot, sometimes for strafing, but quite often I use left and right. Strafing, moving side to side. Enter for obviously use or whatever. And sometimes I'll map the insert home key buttons or whatever, but generally I'm using this. So as soon as I get a keyboard which has no arrow keys or has a slightly weird setup on the shift and control or something, my hand can't get used to it. It's like really weird. The keyboards from whatgeek.com, really good keyboards, but they're 95% layout or 98% layout, and it's all a little bit compressed here. Really struggled. Counter-Strike, stuff like that, very difficult to do. For most people, normal people who use their left hand for ASDW, spacebar, shift keys, etc., it's going to be fine. But for me, my muscle memory, I do it, it's like autopilot when I'm gaming. And as soon as you have to start thinking about what finger does what on the keyboard for movement, you've basically lost the game. So you have to have a keyboard which fits your particular needs and your gaming style. Otherwise it becomes really unnatural. It's like going from a right-hand drive car to a left-hand drive car.
Or an automatic.
Or yeah, or an automatic. It's a very, very like strange shock to the system. You can get used to it, but you don't always want to. Like for an automatic car, as most things.
When your new car's windscreen wipers are where your indicators used to be.
Yeah. Yeah, you're flashing your squirters to get someone out of a junction.
Oh, I don't think that bit. Yeah, that must have all changed, mustn't it?
Where do you get to? Mookie MC, what do you think of season 3 of Picard, Mike? I would argue it's possibly perfect in terms of a Star Trek series or even a movie. I think it's probably the best thing that they've done, and the fact that they opened up the kind of the offsprings and like 7 of 9. Can't think what the other lady's name is. No, can't think. But basically, they've set it up so that they can go on and do the next generation. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was very good. There was a few moments of it where you thought, yeah, they're just fan pleasing here, but it wasn't as bad as like the recent Star Wars remakes, which were just
Wolfman's got lightning outside, so they're going.
Okay, cool. Thank you for joining us. David Aitken, here we are. He's back. He's finished the vol au vents. Ask you anything, Mike. Would you rather fight a chicken to the death every time you get into a car, or fight an orangutan to the death once a year, but you get a sword? I think it's going to be the orangutan, clearly, because like I've always said, any waste of effort is a flaw in my design. So if I've got to do the same thing every day just to get in my car, although arguably I don't use my car, so
I use it more than you know.
Yeah, maybe
once a fortnight.
Yeah, maybe the whole chicken thing might be better. Although, yeah.
Do you have to fight it? Can't you just keep it for the eggs?
Don't think so. I think it says fight a chicken to the death. So it has to die.
What about orangutan? What have you got to do with that?
I've only got to kill it once.
But why would do that, why wouldn't you keep it alive and let it do your YouTube channel?
To be honest with you, if it's an orangutan and it's like half decent, I'm tempted to get it to be a stand-in and or double up as indicators. So when I'm driving, say left turn Clyde, and get him to put his thumb out the window.
Why would he be in my seat? You'd have to sit in the back so we could do both
That's
sides.
my seat, passenger seat. I'm going to sit in the back. I'm on my Nintendo or something. Good question. Like it, Dave. Ugly Bob says, loves me Razer Huntsman Elite with purple keys. Yeah, the optical switches are awesome on those. Ugly Bob says, I'd fight the chicken because I can't spell orangutan. Good.
Our Wolfman's on the phone for a bit.
Okay. Dutch Jan's in. How you doing, Dutch Jan?
What makes you think the chicken wouldn't wing?
That's true. Yeah, the chicken will probably have me. They've got
Becky,
weird,
your eyes.
weird feet, haven't
Got weird feet. They got chicken feet.
they? Yeah. They got as many toes as Welsh people. Des Duckers, did EVGA just make NVIDIA card and not AMD? I think that's true. Yeah, they may have done AMD cards many, many years ago, but I don't think in more recent times they have, because NVIDIA was generally quite strict about what companies could make and kind of edged out other manufacturers, really. Ugly Bob says, control keys, QAOP for the win. QAOP, now that's old school. That's two-handed setup though, isn't it? That's like old school. If you're if you can't afford a Kempston mouse for your Sinclair Spectrum or your Commodore 64, then yeah, QAOP, spacebar for jump, and maybe shift or enter to swap weapon. That's old school. That is QAOP. I haven't seen QAOP for a long time. Freedom House, yes, EVGA just did NVIDIA. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I didn't think they did AMD, but you never know. Letter says, I really like my Razer keyboards. Being a pro ghostwriter, I am writing at least 8 hours per day. I've actually got a keyboard called the Ghostwriter. I'm actually tempted to send you it. It uses cherry brown switches, which would probably be a ghostwriter's preferable switch. David Underhill says, I've used QWERTY keyboards since early 1970s IBM terminals, then Tandy, Commodore, Amstrad, Apple, BBC Home Computer, then millions of PCs. Dutch Jan just had dinner with wife. Awesome stuff. Ugly Bob says, laugh my ass off, yeah, flash those squirters. It does, doesn't it? Don't flash your squirters, you'll get arrested. This is very true. Ivory Wolfman getting lightning outside in the distance. Yep, thunder. Time to say goodbye, methinks. We had well, we had the promise of thunder and lightning this week, and we did have a little bit of thunder. It's a few rumblings.
Distance, yeah.
Nothing come of it.
Bit of rain for the garden.
Stay on my phone for a bit. Bless your heart. I'm not going to say it because I'll probably get banned for it, but I'll put it on the screen so you guys can read it. A letter says, nobody can use my keyboards. They all have unmarked black keycaps, and I used the Dorvac keyboard layout. That's Russian, isn't it? Is that Russian? Dorvac? I don't know, but seem to think it is, maybe. Craig Gaming, the pudding keycaps I added were the SteelSeries Prism UK layout. Only 3 wouldn't fit: the Alt key on the right, Control key on the right, and the Shift key above it. Doesn't affect the use though. I actually... Did I do it? Yeah, I'm not sure. Did I make a video of me doing the keycaps on my Huntsman Mini?
I'm not sure if you did.
I don't think I did. I'm going to grab them.
Can I just say, Lucky Man's asking the same question again.
Ow, my leg's gone to sleep.
Oh, brain. Careful.
Well, it's not going to hurt. It's gone to sleep.
Got neighbours.
Oh yeah.
Might hurt there.
I can't.
Feeling that dead thing flying across the room.
I can't feel my leg.
They can hear it.
I better not climb up there, do I?
No.
Because I will fall over.
I hate doing things like that. Lucky Man, question again. Corsair headphones crackle in all ports even with firm update. Why? PS, they're wireless.
Interference? Do you have RGB LEDs anywhere near you?
As in, like, even maybe your lights?
Yeah. Low energy light bulbs, any Wi-Fi bulbs,
Smart bulbs.
and things like this or that will interfere like crazy with either Bluetooth or 2.4 gigahertz wireless.
Because we find that with microphones.
If you've still got a landline at home and you've got one of those cordless base stations for it, unplug that because they can do it as well. 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi for headphones can be an absolute nightmare and it's really wide open to interference. If it's doing it on Bluetooth as well, it's more likely going to be the LED bulbs. So turn off any lighting, do it in the dark. Actually, your audio experience will be better in the dark because you can hear better in the dark, allegedly.
I can.
So try that.
Turn it up a notch. I think it's because you lie in front of your phone speaker. I can't hear through you.
David says, train the orangutan to do a live stream. The back's equally hairy, so it'll be fine to stand in for you once in a while. I would say I would probably give the orangutan a run for his money. I'm going to plaque my back.
I think no one would even notice the difference, to be honest.
They probably get better tech advice. Eggmaster. Oh God, I scrolled too far. Close that window, Babs, please. Eggmaster, hey, I have a 5600G and it gets around 50 degrees with the stock AMD cooler with about 5 to 15% usages when I do general light work. Is that normal? Heard it should be about 20 to 40 degrees. No, I think that probably the 5600G with a stock cooler can run quite toasty. Yours might be slightly higher than usual. I would definitely check the mounting pressure, make sure that's okay. Make sure it's fully tightened down and even. Make sure the back plate is flush against the back of the motherboard. Realistically, I would say your best thing to do, rather than faff around with it, probably get yourself a cheap cooler, like the Johnsbow A4 or A5, the Thermalright Assassin, any of the 120 Assassins would be fine. The ID Cooling 214 XT. There's loads of them around about £20, £15, £20 mark. You can get yourself a really decent cooler these days for not a lot of money. Lucky Man's question, we did that one. Kenny D, hi Mike, Kath and everyone, how you doing? Just reading. Tristan G, Mike's third leg. Feels like it. Oh no, it is. Yep, it's there now. I can feel it. It's back in the room. Oh, I was great. Gone too far. Yeah, that's a good idea actually. Ugly Bob saying there to Lucky Man, if you have access to a laptop, install the software and then go out in the garden and see if it still does it there, because then you're basically away from interference. But obviously, if you're taking it into the garden, don't be sitting next to, like, if there's an electricity meter or one of those like Wi-Fi cameras outside, because you're going to be picking up the same interference. Yeah, if it's fine in the garden, it's going to be localized interference. Kenny D, anyone got some quick recommendations for a budget 1440p 144Hz monitor? The AOC 24G2, that's pretty good value for money at the moment. I think that's actually 165 Hz.
It's got 27 inches is ideal.
Oh, in that case, the G24. Sorry, G27 G2.
Under $250. So I don't know.
Oh yeah, it should be way under that. Thanks, Lucky Man.
Eggmaster's off.
Cheers, Eggmaster. David Aiken, would you rather be forced to have 1 bar of Wi-Fi forever, or screen flicker on and off for 3 seconds every minute forever? That is a tricky one. Screen flicker is really distracting. 1 bar of Wi-Fi I could probably live with, although I don't know if I'll be able to stream. Am I still allowed wired? If I can have wired as well, then yeah, the Wi-Fi I don't care about really. No worries, Eggmaster. See you soon. Ugly Bob's, yeah, Kenny D on Amazon. The Curie 27-inch QHD gaming monitor, 144Hz. The Curie monitor, actually, I was tempted to get one of those and try it out, see what it's like, because their 22-inch monitor, which I tried, was crack. It really was cheap, and it was basically the sort of monitor that you buy for your staff if you hate them. It really wasn't good. The colour accuracy and the viewing diagonals were pitiful. Cheap, but pitiful. There we go. Avengi says, avoid the Curie QD 144Hz one. The blur is really bad. I've noticed actually on my monitor, I've got the electric.
You should show that little thing off as well that you got given this week.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Well done. Sorry. I've got the electric 32-inch 165Hz 1440p curved monitor, and I've noticed the blur's got worse on it. So on Discord, if someone's got like a black profile picture, actually try this for yourself. Go onto your Discord feeds, look for someone who's got a black user profile circle thing, and scroll up and down and watch the black, and it'll probably smudge. A lot of monitors do. Mine seems to have got worse. I don't know if it's a setting, whether it's a maybe an Intel thing. Maybe there's something else to add into the list. Patrick LaBelle's come in to the rescue with a $5.50 Canadian rupees. Thank you, sir. Talking of keyboard, I'm cleaning my old Amiga 4000 keyboard right now while testing some RAM. One set of my G.Skill RAM did not survive the winter. Oh, sorry to hear that, but thank you for the super chat. God bless you. And thanks for the idea about the D15 mounts as well. I might take a look at that. Ira Wolfman says, I was looking at the electric monitor but got the LG OLED instead. Good stuff. Oh, yeah, that's what I'll do. This was sent in this week by... Is it Rick? I forget now.
I think it was Rick.
No, was it Rick? I haven't got my... Oh, is my computer still on? You got the Mike's Unboxing email, haven't you?
Yeah.
I'll have a look. I'm sure this came from Rick H. I think.
I'm pretty sure it did.
We'll have to see.
But was it on a comment?
No, it was a direct email saying gift in the post or something, gift on its way. I think it was Rick.
There's nothing from Rick.
I don't think it was Patrick. I'm sure it was Rick H.
Deleted it, haven't you?
I wouldn't have deleted it. It's in the inbox. I left it in there. I'm sure I did.
You sure you did?
Look in deleted items then. Although I emptied my deleted items today, so it might have synced. Anyway, thank you very much. I'm sure it was Rick H who sent this.
I'm sure it was Rick H.
This is a bobblehead, a pop bobblehead of Boba Fett, number 462, to go in combination with the mouse mat. And I'm really not sure what to do with this. There's a set of 6 of them.
Yeah, it was Rick, he says.
It was Rick. Thank you,
It
Rick.
was.
I'm sure it was. I don't know what... I'm honestly not sure what to do with it. I'm really tempted to leave it in the box because I believe... I don't know anything about Funko Pops. I am somewhat out of the loop on this. But I'm pretty sure they hold their value if you keep them in a box. But I kind of like the thought of his head bobbling around on the desk as well, which might look quite cool in some like review videos. So I don't know, but thank you very much. Thank you, Rick. Interesting. So I'm reading something else there.
You do need to get one of you and Poppy.
The thing is though, the pop head thing of me would basically be.
You could just get.
I don't know. Vern Troyer. That's hurtful. Irie Wolfman says you can buy another display box for it. I could, I suppose.
I think it should go where that Mario thing.
Actually,
George could have that back.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's put that back.
Value.
I've devalued it already. I'll look after the box though, just in case. I'll put it in the loft. Star Wars. There we go. Oh shit. Oh, that's really slidey on there. How does that work? Does that look good?
Flop it in.
Is that better than that?
That is George's.
Thanks, George.
You didn't know how to do it. Do you keep your value if I keep you in a box?
That is something which, talking of boxes, I want to buy something. And that is, I want... Oh, what's this? There's a thing in there. What's that for? Is that supposed to go behind for display purposes or something? I told you, I'm a moron. I do not know what these things are about. I'll keep it there anyway. I want to purchase, or get the license, to use the song Living in a Box by the band Living in a Box. Because obviously, living in a box, living in a cardboard box. I am always unboxing things. It's an unboxing channel. We have Unboxing Brown in our logo. I wanted it as a theme tune. And I tried to use it, but it's obviously copyrighted. But trying to find the actual company responsible for the copyright of that particular track, you'd think it'd be really easy, but it's actually incredibly difficult. So, yeah, I want... Oh, it's the logo of the Mandalorians. Thank you. You could put it in the PC behind me. That's not a bad idea, actually. I don't know if you'd see it. We'll try it. Is it actually visible, or am I going to be blocking it all the time? I think I'm going to be blocking it, aren't I? Thank you for the super chat, Tristan G. Tristan G. There used to be a radio station in Bristol called FTP. For the people, it's called. It was basically, it started off as a pirate radio station, and it got so mainstream that they decided they'd just give it a license and see how it goes. And FTP then evolved into, I think it went from FTP, then it became possibly Galaxy Radio, then Ministry of Sound, etc., etc., and it's now been kind of gobbled up by the two main... In England at the moment, there are basically two radio station companies, Global and... I forget the name of the other one, but Global do basically Heart FM and all that sort of stuff, and basically all the talk channels. So there's basically two radio stations in the UK now.
Owned by the same people.
Owned by the same people, basically. So yeah, if you listen to the radio in the UK, you're listening to one side of every story. Kind of, yeah. What I was going to say is the FTP radio used to have a DJ called Tristan B, who was a Bristolian and a great DJ. So whenever I see Tristan G, I always think Tristan B. Anyway, Tristan G says, such a fun, casual learning live chat. Thank you, Mike. You're very welcome. I'm glad you're part of it.
Records Limited owns the copyright for...
Chrysalis Records, is it?
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, actually, I think I did find that out last Sunday. I spend my time whilst I'm working at my other job, looking up how to buy the music. I'm going to buy it.
Soaps.
And how to make soaps. That was last week. Ugly Bob says, play the song on the channel and see who the copyright strike comes in from, then you'll know. That is a very good idea.
We did have it, didn't we, on one of our videos?
One of our very early videos, before we were monetized, does actually have Living in a Box as the intro music.
Or was it just clips of video footage you'd done because we recorded it on your phone. Didn't Google Photos put it all together or something?
I think it might have been, yeah. Wendy Bob says, come on 2027, you can use live in a box as it will be 40 years old. Yeah, because copyright expires basically after 40 years. So in 4 years' time, we'll be able to use it anyway.
Oh my god, that's so scary.
Mookie MC, Eggmaster, do you do YouTube full time? Yes. Yes, that is. No and yes. I do have a job, like a day job, but I only do it for 1 day a week on a Sunday.
Do it. You turn up 1 day a week on a Sunday.
And I do it more out of some weird sense of loyalty to the person who owns the business, and because I worked in that shop under different ownership when I first left school at 16. So it's kind of like, it's my first job and also my last job in some weird way. And because YouTube is one of those weird things where you never know what's going to happen. I could say something stupid and get cancelled tomorrow. It's possible I am like that, especially in the live stream. So I think of it as well as a little bit of a kind of safety net. So even though I'm earning I think it's minimum wage, and it's only 6 hours, and I do that for 4 days a month, so every Sunday. So it's not as if it's a load of money. I think it's like 200 quid or something like that. So it's not a lot of money, but it's just something there that, if all this goes tits up, then I've got something to fall back on, and potentially I could do more hours. So I don't want to be that kind of blasé, oh, I'm a YouTuber, I do it full time sort of thing. I want to have, like everything, you should always have some sort of backup plan.
Not all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, like if anything goes wrong or I get sick or whatever, well, I suppose the sickness I still can't work, but you know what I mean. It's having something else to kind of fall back on. So if they decide to put the electricity rates up much higher next Christmas or this winter, then having that extra money is kind of like a little bit of an extra buffer. Or I can do more hours.
Somewhere to go to keep warm, increase your hours.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have any heat.
So there you go. And I kind of like it because it keeps me a little bit grounded as well. Like, I know there's a lot of people who do YouTube full time and they kind of lose sense of what is real in the world. So actually working in a retail environment in a shop, you get to see real people, you have to work for a living, etc. Just, yeah, it's one of those things. I quite enjoy doing it to some extent. I don't enjoy getting up and actually the process of going to work, but actually working is a kind of enjoyable thing, and meeting people, it's exercise and it's a few extra quid. David Underhill says, yes, Mike, don't give up your day job. Well, this technically is my day job. My sideline is my real job thing. It's confusing. Mookie MC. Does the UK have some version of ASCAP for music rights? I was hoping that there is a website or like an app you can use to license music, like popular stuff. I can't think of the name of it now. It is affiliated with YouTube. I did sign up to it before, and you can get stuff. You can pay license fees for basically kind of most mainstream artists. But sadly, because living in a box, haven't been mainstream for 30 plus years, then it's it's not easy. And trying to speak to someone at Chrysalis Records, because Chrysalis Records is owned by someone else. I think they're part of Sony now. So you'd have to speak to Sony.
Speak to Black Rock.
Yeah. I'll just phone up Bill Gates, he'll know. Wendy Bob says, how far is the car shop from your home? Do you walk, drive, or does Kath drag you there so she has a day of freedom?
I used to walk you to work.
The car shop, if I still use my Google Home in the morning to find out the news, and it also tells me the weather and the traffic. And it's quite funny because it says, your journey to work on the A4174 A432 will take 2 minutes by car, and it's like, yep, gonna be fine. So yeah, my workplace, I think I can walk it in like 5 or 6 minutes.
It's 4.
It's 4 for Kath.
You're faster.
it's slower for me because when I'm walking there, it's like I
Yeah,
don't really want to be doing this, so I'm kind of
You can't
slow.
spill your drink either.
Yeah, and also I'm carrying my Mike's Unboxing flask with my stuff in. So yes, that is it is extremely local. It is well within walking distance. It's within. I could probably pogo stick there, to be honest with you. This is my work mug. Some of you have probably seen this posted on the Discord. A little bit faded now because it's been through the dishwasher and stuff. But yeah, that is my Mike's Unboxing
It's quite old now, isn't it?
mug, which I use in the shop.
And you
Needs to be bigger, to be fair.
And you actually wore your Mike's Unboxing T-shirt for the interview, didn't you?
I did actually, yeah. When I went for the interview for the job, the intention was to go down in my suit, shirt and ties, etc. Like you used to back in the day when people went for job interviews. I didn't realise all that had changed. So when I went to go for the interview, on the morning of the interview, I thought, oh, I better get my stuff on. And literally none of it fit. So it was like, I had to turn up in my Mike's Unboxing t-shirt and my jeans and trainers and basically said, sorry, I work from home at the moment. Do YouTube stuff. So yeah, this is my work uniform. So I do apologise. Oh, and actually, by the way, it's also because I can't fit in the other things because I'm too fat. So that was a really good icebreaker because the new owner of the business, I think I'd possibly spoken to once or twice before I'd gone in the shop and buying something, but yeah, very, very fleeting things. So this is a completely new kind of working relationship. So yeah, I thought that was a good way to start off. Letter says, I don't want to ever make a single penny on my YouTube channel. It's just for fun. Yeah. It's weird because it sucks you in.
It wasn't though, was it?
It's
It was...
really, really hard going at the beginning to get anything at all. But once it starts coming in, and then every like Christmas time or peak seasons, you get these like little influxes of cash, and you're like, wow, this is actually like pretty decent. Well, against minimum wages anyway.
But also, well, I've been doing my Shop Smart, haven't I, for 5 years, and
yeah,
still not monetized.
Yeah, so please, if you haven't already, go to our other channel, Shop Smart, and leave a subscription. Got to get the bloody numbers up so you can get monetized on that thing. Nick Barnes says Kath is quicker because long legs versus Mike. True. Kath is Amazon Warrior. Stuart Cleary has Jay's 2 cent lost weight or lost it lately. Yeah, he's had an operation, so he's had his gallbladder removed. So he's having his gallbladder was infected, so they had to remove it. And along with that, you normally when you have
absorb fat.
Yeah, so his body now cannot absorb fat and other things. So basically now, he's gonna lose weight pretty quickly.
Lose lots of you won't be able to absorb vitamins.
A lot of people say that they feel much better. My dad had the gallbladder removed, and he said the difference was like amazing. He felt 100% after that. So
really, my mum's friend said that she's never felt right since.
Yeah, I think some people, I guess everyone's body is a little bit different, aren't they? So some do really well and some don't. Eggmaster, have you ever considered starting other businesses, or do you just want to continue in the YouTube scene? I've never really given it any thought, to be honest with you. I very rarely plan for anything, because in this crazy modern world, I know that whatever you plan for, the way that things work, it can just like that completely spin you around 180. So I think to myself, well, I'll just do whatever. And if things change, if I don't have the ability to make YouTube content, or I just don't want to make content, then yeah, I might just go back to work in the shop full time, or I don't know, whatever. It's
You've never planned.
I don't plan things. I never do. I just.
But you've got me planning.
Yeah.
Which you hate.
Kath plans stuff, to some extent, but we both like it now. We're kind of very much like, we go to bed, we both hope we wake up the next morning, and we do,
Live in the moment.
and then we just do whatever we need to do that day, and don't really, there's no point planning for the future because you don't know what's going to happen, and there's no point really dwelling on the past because that's done with. So yeah, I'm kind of pretty happy with how things are, and if it all goes crap tomorrow, then you do something else. Sorry to hear that, David Underhill.
I was just putting that same.
Maybe use The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel as an alternate theme song. It's not a bad idea. I'll have to listen to that. Dutch Jan, 89 views on my channel in 9 years. Oof. Tix Bomber, hello, how's everyone doing tonight? Yes, not too bad. Living the dream. William Bailey says, question, was Mike not an orphan? No. Halfway there, kind of. My mother and father, my biological mother and father, I should say, I guess, they split up when I was about 1 year old, so mostly grown up with my mum, and I left home at about 16, 17, so my mum remarried, and 2 years ago,
2.5, yeah.
2.5, 3 years ago, he passed away, very sadly, very unexpectedly. My biological father is still alive and well, so yeah, I'm not quite an orphan, but I think the older we get, the closer we get to being that. But no, I did have both parents, and they were married, so I am not a bastard, despite what it says in the toilets, although I'm sure Ugly Bob wrote it. Skystalker says, had my gallbladder removed. Honestly, I didn't feel any difference, except that I don't really like to eat really fatty foods. Never did, so...
I love fat. Butter and bacon.
Free Mouse says, if you don't plan, your plans don't go wrong. That's very true. And, like, with YouTube stuff, you never know who is going to be kind of flavour of the month, whatever you want to call it. So, like, we work with MSI, we work with Thermal Take, we work with whatgeek.com, we have worked with Noctua, Premium CD Keys, Skull Shaver. There's various brands that we work with, but you can never really rely on any of them to be always kind of there. And a lot of companies, they do change their kind of executives and their PR agents on a relatively regular basis. Like MSI used to change it almost every year. I think they've settled down now because they're doing it all in-house, but it's kind of getting to the point where it is going to be like that. So you don't really want to get any one brand in and be it kind of, this is going to be who we're working with.
That's a freebie for Tick Bomber.
Oh, thank you for Tick Bomber.
No, he didn't do anything. He asked, is that a security camera or a light?
Oh, right, okay. Cool.
Sorry.
Well done. Yeah, so I never look ahead and think, right, for next year we're going to work with, for example, Thermotake, and we're going to do this, we're going to change the studio, we're going to try and get this done, that done, that done. It's like, we might have a Barney with Thermotake next week and never do their stuff again. You just never know. Anything can happen. So yeah, I don't plan on anything. It literally is just whatever we see. If it's a good bargain or it's one of those common things, then we'll report on it, we'll discuss it, we'll chat about it, and just try and keep it all as organic as we possibly can. And I think by not planning, that works out really well. Like, we are heading towards 100,000 subscribers, and I don't think I know of any other YouTube channel with a more tech kind of outlook that hasn't resorted to sponsorships or corporate backing, all that kind of stuff. Because that's something I don't want to do. I don't want to have the pressure of any company saying to me, right, we want you to do this, we want you to do that. At the moment, we're free as a bird. I could turn around tomorrow and say, right, not making any more videos. That's it. Game over. So we don't have that. We haven't signed any contracts with anyone saying, right, we will do X video for you, blah, 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 for X amount of money. We don't do that. It's actually really liberating. So yeah, you can basically tell companies to piss off. In fact, there's quite a few companies that I get emails from and I say, no, not interested, sorry, don't want to work with you. Because I don't think they're ethically the sort of companies that we want to work with, which we do. So we have that. We're not beholden to anyone financially. So we don't have any, don't have a massive studio to pay for, which is very helpful. Doing it from home is very much money saving. So yeah, it's good. Works out well. Well, I think it does. Ivory Wolfman says, do you need new chairs? Need a new chair again? Sponsors? Sharkoon have new chairs. I actually did see that MSI have got some quite inexpensive gaming chairs for about £130, which on first glances looked actually to be A, reasonable value, and B, if it's coming from MSI, it can't be entire garbage, surely. You never know. But no, in terms of space, I've still got the other two chairs in the other room waiting for me to pull my finger out my backside and figure out what I'm going to do in this room to make it a bit more workable. The trouble is, this room kind of works as it is. Uncomfortable as it might be, it kind of works in this small space. So
This is our dining room as well.
Yeah, legally and technically, this is our dining room. We work from our dining room. So if we get rid of the tables or we get rid of the chairs that kind of make it a dining room, then in theory the taxation class changes and all kinds of other nonsense. And yeah, it's a very messy business. So making too many modifications to this room would be financially not very beneficial. Well, it could be beneficial because I could start claiming things, but yeah, it's a nightmare. I'm not going to go there. But I do want to do something. That really long keyboard has piqued my curiosity. What, this one? Or that one?
Tix Bomber says, nice, I'm the weirdo that scopes out the background for cool stuff.
All right.
Who does that?
Yeah.
It's me.
People check out the stuff in the background when they're bored of the foreground.
Yeah, that's what
Thanks.
I put. That's me. But Sean did
that
it,
one.
didn't he?
This isn't actually a massive keyboard. This is...
Is it that one or the one on your desk?
No, so the background one.
All right.
It's a MSI GK50 with the missing keycap, because I put it on there. But I don't want to press the button because if I do, it might mess up the stream. Ivory Wolfman says, make it more like a kitchen instead. That's not a bad idea. Stuart Cleary says, Mike, have you reviewed many chairs? We've done about 5, I think, in total. The Noble Chairs Legend.
This one.
Or is it a Legend or was it a Hero? I can't remember. I think we did both.
Noble Chairs, I think it was George's.
Yeah, I think we did the Hero and the Legend. So 2 from the Noble Chair. Which, that would be the one preferably I would use in the summer. Because actually it's quite a nice material.
Not your Boolies.
I've got the Boolies chair in the Mike's Unboxing Blue, which actually is the one I would prefer for winter because it's fabric and it's got quite nice padding, but it's quite upright as well, quite supportive.
Couple for GT Player.
GT Player, we did a couple.
What was that one that we gave to Ugly Bob?
Oh yeah, Ugly Bob had one as well.
It was a weird name.
Can't think now. Is it 3389, the model number or something? I can't think what it was. That was quite a nice chair as well.
I think we got Gaming Chairs playlist.
Ugly Bob says, I'm sitting on it right now.
What's it called?
That was actually a very nice chair. How's it held up actually, Bob? I'd be interested to know. Tristan G says, don't push that missing key, Mike. No, I won't. Mookie MC says, I think some cool sponsored by Mookie MC stickers on your forehead would be cool. And how much on sponsorships would it cost for Kath to be an on-screen guest star? I don't think she'd do it. Money isn't an issue. Me and Kath, both of us, neither one of us are money motivated, which is why even though potentially if we wanted to, we could spend an absolute metric shit ton of money on PC stuff and claim it back as tax expenses. I just don't bother. Because it's, yeah, it's, I don't want to be money motivated, because once you go down that route, it's very hard to stop. And when the corporate money or sponsorship starts coming in, if you get used to it, you then got to a point where you kind of rely on it, and you have to go out then searching for sponsorship all the time to keep the money up, which is pretty rubbish. Got the Mike's unboxing hat.
And also, because George was autistic and wouldn't take a bottle, I couldn't get back to work, so we've always lived quite frugally anyway. Yeah,
it's true. James Miscellaneous is in. Says, Dan, been working all day, missed the live show, and asked me anything, best format. It's quite cool, actually. At the moment when the weather's been ridiculously warm, at least for the UK, like it's like 11 o'clock, just gone 11 o'clock, and it's still 26 degrees in here. Which, for going to bed in 26 degrees, isn't great. Humidity's dropped down to 40... Oh, it's just gone up. 48%. It doesn't feel too bad, actually. David Underhill says, I rent my house as business and sublet it to myself as salary sacrifice. All the tech in the business assets are written off. We should do that, really, but it's just...
But you have to pay capital gains and all that when you sell your house.
Yeah, capital gain. If we ever sold the house or passed the house on to the kids in the event of something happened to us, then they'd have to pay capital gains tax on it. This is messy. Really messy.
His random gaming hat. I don't know where that is.
Oh, a random gaming hat. Yeah, that's hung up out there somewhere. Tix Bomber says the more money comes in, usually the more your morals have to bend too, the bigger you get. I completely agree, which is why, again, I don't want to go down that route. And there are some companies which I don't like their stuff, or I'm not a fan of it, and I'm quite happy to say it, because I don't have to worry about money coming in from sponsorship or anything.
Sorry, there's too many Angels coats like there, I can't find it.
Tristan G says I like Mike's clean dome sans the cap. After the stream he goes AC/DC in the garden.
Dewin X 6689 gaming chair.
Ah, thank you, Bob. Downings, yeah, that's a weird name, isn't it? Des Duckers, yes, UK too hot. Sitting outside on my tablet. I was saying to Kath actually this week, I really wish that we had a garden which would be suitable for streaming. So I'd love to be able to get some slightly larger tables set up out there, like trestle tables or something, and do some outside stuff in the summer when it's a little bit more favourable out there. But then again, summer or the kind of warmer periods here are probably only like a month realistically a year, so kind of all that money and investment and time faffing around is probably not worth it. Ugly Bob says waiting for the make Bristol literate again cap to be shown.
He's not a miracle worker.
Yeah, got no chance of that. Make Bristol is a very weird city. Fortunately, I can say technically I don't live in Bristol. We are in the county of Bristol, but not the city of Bristol. So we are just on the outskirts in an area called South Gloucestershire, which incorporates, I think, Taunton and a few other places like that.
Not Taunton.
I'm pretty sure Taunton is South Gloucestershire. Or is that North Devon? That might be North Devon.
Or North Somerset.
North Somerset? Gloucestershire. Yeah, sorry, yeah, that's North Somerset. I'm confusing myself, yeah.
Because it's quite a small county.
I'll shut up.
I think.
And that's pretty cool. David Underhill's designed and still gets royalties from designs did in the 1980s. That's the sort of job you want. Something which has passive income. Like YouTube is passive income because you make a video and generally if it's something which is reasonably either topical or handy, then it will get repeat views and go on forever and ever. Like things like how to switch or how to swap the batteries in a Hive thermostat is one of those videos which is kind of very evergreen because people have still got them. They're still being installed by British Gas, etc. I think that video is probably 4 or 5 years old now.
Hey,
it still gets pretty decent views, so it's nice that it carries on.
Gonna come and say hi?
Taunton in Somerset. Skystalker says you should set up outside, Mike. You have a very nice looking yard. The trouble is we do have neighbours which are very, very close, so I'd feel really conscious.
Very low wall.
Yeah, very low wall. David Underhill says the whole of England is smaller than the Shire I live in.
You had enough of that, mate.
England is a pretty small place. That's why we've got such small houses.
But the accents change really quickly, don't they?
Oh, Irene Wolfman, that's cool. Sorry?
But the accents in England change.
Oh yeah, accents change in England
You can
within...
go to the next accent.
Probably, I was going to say 10 to 20 miles, the accents will change around the UK. Because North Bristol sounds nothing like South Bristol.
And we're east, aren't we?
And we're east. So, yeah, you don't have to go very far and then you get into Yate, which is quite nearby. And that's less than 10 miles away and they sound different. Yeah, it's very strange. Ugly Bob says North Bristol is South Wales though. Yeah, kind of. Okay, I think that's pretty much going to wrap things up. I'll give you the 5 to 10 minute warning that we're going to wrap things up. So if you've got any last minute questions, now is the time to get them in. I can't believe we've been going for 3 hours. I felt absolutely shit most of the last couple of days. I don't know whether it's because of just the stress. I've just been feeling really, really like low energy. Most mornings I wake up. Well, the kids have been going to work like 7:30. Now that the sun's shining as well, it's like, do I get up now? Or maybe wait for my alarm. My alarm goes off at like 8:30. But then, realistically, I'll start work at kind of 9. So, I work from home. So, it shouldn't really take me more than half an hour to have a shit shower, shave, and get down here for 9 o'clock. I generally don't, but in theory I do. But then I do work till like 1 o'clock at night, most evenings. So, that is the downside of working from home. It's almost impossible to... Well, being in this our living room and we kind of spend... Arguably, other than sleeping, we probably spend like 90 to 95% of our time in this room. Other than having a pee or going out into the garden to empty the bins or water the plants or whatever, or to go to the shops to get some food, literally in this room from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed. So we are in here a lot, an awful lot. And also in my tax return it does say that. So this room is a dining room, living room, and where we film video. Just to be clear.
I do nag you to get out in the sun though.
But yeah, that's it. There's literally like, because you've got Discord, you've also got email, you've got YouTube, research, all that stuff. I could quite easily just sit at my desk for 13, 14 hours a day straight. Easy. Just, well, the odd pee break, but other than that. And it's hard to switch off. You get to the point, normally I get to the point about 8, 9 o'clock. I think, right, that's it. I should call it a day now. But it's hard to do, so I generally don't. I just carry on, and then I get a ping from Discord, and it's like, oh, somebody wants me. And then I realise that there's people all around the world on different time zones who, for them, 10 o'clock or even midnight here in the UK, for them is like early in the morning. So I don't want to be like, sorry, can't speak to you, I'm going to bed. I try to do what I can. And that then, Kath caught up and she's like, I'm going to bed now. It's like, oh, I'll be up with you in a minute. I've got someone on Discord, I won't be long. And I'm just there praying, thinking, please be an easy fix, otherwise I'm going to be here for hours. Anyway.
Tell Mark B that Maisie's not a new cat.
Thank you, Stuart Cleary, for the €10. God bless you. Extra tenner for your genuine down-to-earth banter. That's the whole idea. That's all I've ever wanted this to be. I've spent many, I have suffered with depression, mental illness, whatever you want to call it, whatever label you want to stick on it. I've suffered with that for years. Always me trying to be someone that deep down I'm not. So having YouTube and being able to be the person that I want to be to other people is like super liberating. So this is me, warts and all. If there's something about me you don't like, you won't like me in real life. If you like me in YouTube, there's a strong chance you'll probably like me outside of it as well, you know? That's the general thing. I am basically what I am. Okay. I'm far from perfect. I try my best. I often miss the mark, but I put in effort where it's required. What else can you say? I wouldn't want to be someone else or try to be someone else, because I've tried that for many, many years of my life in real life, and it's extremely tiring trying to be someone that you're not. Be yourself. If people don't like you, what have you got to lose? There's no point being that person who is, we all know someone like it, who is basically, when you're with them or whatever, or when you're with a group of people, they're one type of person, but then on a one-to-one chat, they're completely different. And it makes you think like, well, if they're that different, then what else are they hiding? And hopefully it comes across that I am trying to be as genuine as I can. Obviously there's some things I can't say or won't say or don't want to say. There's always those things you have to keep to yourself a little bit, but overall I think I do a pretty good job of being as honest as possible. Kath's looking at me like, what the fuck is he talking about? Anyway.
Inky asks, can you recommend a motherboard with LGA 1200 socket?
Can I recommend a motherboard with LGA 1200 socket? That's a tough one. Depending on what it is you want to do and how much you want to spend, I'd probably, it depends on the processor. If you're going for a non-K processor, probably one of like the MSI H610s. Is it 610? H510? I'm not sure. LGA 1200. Yeah, 10 or LGA. Yeah. A 410 or a 510, I think. The time is getting late. My brain is going. I'd need to know what processor really and all the other stuff. It's hard to. It's quite an open-ended question.
Mark Barry asked, so has Bristol gone ULEZ like a lot of other cities? I saw the other day Glasgow has ULEZ like London. Yeah,
Bristol's got. ULEZ is such a stupid. Sorry, this is going to be. Yes, Central Bristol has gone ULEZ, but bizarrely, our son's car, which is a 1.4 Fiesta. 1.2 Fiesta, or 1.25, whatever it is petrol, has ridiculously low emissions, passes the ULEZ, but still gets charged £200 a year for tax. Our car, BMW 320 diesel, which has relatively high emissions, is not ULEZ compliant, whereas George's is, and yet we pay less tax because it's a diesel, like almost half the amount that he pays. So I just don't. I don't get where the taxation system works. I think our tax is like 140 in it.
Something like that. It's not half.
So that's a 2-litre diesel, which spits out so much crap out the back of it that it's ridiculous. you can physically see it, or a clean running little petrol engine, which is ULEZ compliant, but costs a fortune to tax. Like what is the point in that? Because it's an older car. It's like 2004 or something.
And ours is 2000.
And ours is 2008.
Oh, is it?
It's just mental. Absolutely mental.
But they're also bringing in a low traffic neighbourhood in East Bristol.
Yeah, East Bristol, they're bringing in what they call it, a friendly city or something, or a walking city. Some bullshit. They're basically cutting off the roads. Low traffic neighbourhood.
Low traffic neighbourhood, I think they're called, aren't they?
Yeah.
LTN.
So they're basically making it so that you can't drive through certain sections of Bristol.
So you drive.
So you basically have to drive twice as far around it to avoid it. So that's going to put more pressure on the roads around it, just to facilitate some people in a certain area. It's just madness.
People in that
Absolute
area
madness.
don't even know
Mookie MC, 15-minute city. That's basically it.
But we're not allowed to say those.
Tix Bomber says, do you have grandfather cars like in the US where if it's X years old, Y years? Yeah, the rule. If you have a car in the UK, I think, which is over, is it 30?
It used to be 25.
It used to be 25 years, but I think now it's up to
that's still the
35
case.
years. The car doesn't have to have an MOT and doesn't require taxation. Basically, you've got to pay tax to have a car on the road. Ugly Bob says, clearly you get the hairy back tax reduction? Yeah, and I shave off the hairs and burn them just to fuck up the atmosphere. Screw you, Aletta. Not Aletta, the other one. What's the little girl?
Greta.
Greta, not Aletta.
Don't mix them up.
It's getting tired, the brain's going now. Skystalker. My motto is to try and leave my little corner of the place a little better than when I got there. Yeah, I try and do that, apart from the dunny. I destroy that. Tristan G says, I like you, Mike and Kath, and the community here. Thank you, Tristan. I like your DJing skills.
Tristan did say earlier as well, make sure you cook. And we do try and go for a walk every night, only to our local supermarket, but as an excuse to make Mike get out and walk.
Tix Bomber says, that's really awesome, man. I'm glad you found a healthy avenue. Too much stigma still around male mental health. The thing is, male mental health is generally caused by males, if that makes any sense. Because we always think we're not quite good enough. And I suppose the media shows you other people who've like muscles or tanned or chiseled looks or whatever it is. Or maybe they can run a mile in less than 3 minutes, or I don't know, whatever. Fitness, strength, looks, wealth, whatever. You're always you kind of start off when you're younger aspiring to be that person. And I think as you get older, the reality becomes more real. That potentially, even though when you're younger you're told that you can be whoever you want and you can be successful in that, you kind of realise as you go up that there's all kinds of gatekeepers which won't always necessarily allow you to do what you want to do or to progress how you think you should. And then you get those doubts and it's like, well, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not strong enough. Maybe I'm not fast enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I'm not good enough looking. You get all these kind of weird doubts, and the more knockbacks you get, the more you have the doubts, and they kind of pile on amongst themselves until you get to the point of either doing something different or changing the situation that you're in, or the people that you associate with, or the people you listen to or hang out with. And it's a really hard thing to do because we're proud males, and that is what we're kind of almost brought up to be. Like, you've got to be a strong man and not buckle under and stiff upper lip and all that kind of stuff. In reality, quite a lot of the time you just want to curl up in a ball and cry yourself to sleep. But you can't be seen to be feeling like that or to say that because it's seen as a weakness. It is. But we've all got them, so it's a shared weakness. But I hate when people say, oh, it's not a weakness. Yes, it is a weakness, because there's other people that potentially don't have that fear or that stigmatism or that self-doubt.
But that's what's portrayed to you.
Yeah, you get portrayed that, oh, you're a victim because you feel bad about your mental health. It's like, you're not a victim, you're just suffering with
No.
shit in your head.
Other people are portrayed to you in that way that they don't get affected.
Oh yeah, but then there's bound to be some people that don't, because I know some people are dumb as rocks and they don't give a shit about anything. They really just don't care. Whereas, and you see them like, you think, wow, that dude's either like really confident or just does not give a shit. Really, like, completely oblivious to the outside world. And for those people, it's like, awesome. You are completely oblivious. You really don't care. You're living the dream. You have no mental baggage whatsoever. And it must be kind of nice to be like that. But there's a lot of us who are kind of very considerate about what we do, and we think about how do we look, how do we sound, how do we portray ourselves. Do I look fat in this? Those sort of stupid things, which reality, most people, when you go out walking down the streets, no one gives a shit about you. They're too busy wrapped up in their own crap to even notice you. So yeah, I was like it for such a long time, cared so much about everything, and it's just pointless. Mookie MC, group hug. Gay. Joking, I'm joking. Oh dear. Craig Gaming, like air feels chilled. It is, it's just, we all need to wind down, don't we, and let off a bit of steam. Remember the chicken you must fight every day. Oh god. I'll use Luke tomorrow. William Bodie says, question, can we hear some of the Northwest and Easy Bristol lingo? I don't think, a lot of the Bristolian lingo
is made up.
Is made up and not really real, or has been kind of borrowed from Cockney rhyming slang. I think there's a lot of it. There is a very common one which you used to hear a long time ago, we don't really hear now, is Gert Lush. So Gertlush, Gert Lush. So if something is great or really nice, you'd be, oh, that's Gert Lush, that is. Which Gert is basically great or very or big. Yeah. It's like, look at that Gert big mountain over there.
But we never really say Gert Lush.
Yeah.
Not real Bristol.
In the 80s when I was at school, you would hear it quite a lot.
You'd say Gert a lot and you'd say Lush a lot, but not put the two together. Or not.
Yeah, and if something's lush, I don't think lush is very a Bristolian thing, but maybe the two put together makes it Bristolian. But if someone handed you a RGB M.2 cooler and it looked really cool, you'd be, oh, that's lush. You might say it's Gert Lush, you might not, I don't know.
We said Gert a lot as a kid.
Gert basically just means more or big, or it's a enhancement of a word. And lush obviously is basically a translation of what lush means. So if something is in your garden, it's very luscious. So if a flower's got lots of loads of foliage on it and it looks really nice, that would be a lush plant. Yeah.
If you drink too much.
Yeah, there's a thing about drinking. If you drink something, you're a lush as well, I think.
It's alcohol in it.
I don't know. Whatever. So that is a very common thing. They used to always be printed on T-shirts, and there's a place at the bottom of one of the popular Bristol shopping centre areas, and they'd make up T-shirts. One says Gert Lush. That's
Freedom House in Wisconsin. Lush means alcoholic.
Yeah, I think lush. Whenever I heard the word lush during the 80s and 90s, it was generally on an Americanized TV show, and it would be to refer to a female who drank too much.
What's another one, like Vicky Pollard? Don't think anyone really spoke like that until that came out.
Not really. It used to be like that.
Started.
Oh my god. That's more of an accent thing.
Of that, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Copy of Vicky Pollard.
If you went to South Bristol, I would probably imagine you'd find potentially more like Vicky Pollard in that kind of ilk. But then you probably could in North Bristol as well. Welly Bob saying good night. How you doing? Good night, sir. Ugly Bob. Greta saved the monkeys, Aletta shaves them.
I was cool in mine this week.
Yeah, Kath was airing hers out earlier.
I thought of a letter. Not earlier.
Mark Berry says they're already planning on taxing EVs, but that's another story. Yeah, and apparently there's going to be a massive scrappage tax on EVs as well. So if you're the unlucky person who gets in a vehicle accident with an EV and it's beyond economic repair, potentially you may have to foot the bill as part of your excess for scrapping the vehicle rather than the insurance company taking the hit for the lot, which is like mad. Sky says, lol, I don't think Greta and Aletta have too much in common. They have two T's in their name. Give me a break. Oh, and an A at the end, so TTA. And E, actually, and the E. ETTA. So it's only the G or the OL, which is different. And being that G comes before O in the alphabet and L, kind of works. It's 4 letters the same. That's bloody close. It could be the same person. I've never seen Aletta and Greta in the same room. So they could.
Seen either of them.
Yeah, but you're ruining it now. They could be the same person because you've never seen them alone. No, you've never seen them together in the same place at the same time.
They've never both typed on Discord at the same moment.
That is true. Dutch Jan says, I'm an ugly bastard, but a happy bastard. It's a better way. Tix Bomber says, oh, exactly, always got to be tough. Can't cry, can't show emotion, too much internalising. Yeah, and it's not good for you. It really isn't. Tix Bomber says, I definitely envy the people that truly have no F's to give in a way. I do and I don't. Because they're oblivious in such a way that they're missing out on a lot of things, like subtle gestures. Like, quite often you can pick up on what people are actually thinking by their gestures, but if you're that oblivious to the world and its goings on, you're not picking up on those little gestures, so you miss out on a lot of human interaction, possibly.
And Rick H says, your brain lies to you, don't believe everything you think.
No, that's true, yeah. Yeah, the brain is... your brain is a very messed up thing. Like I said, the things were pre-programmed for because of the old fight or flight thing. So if you kind of, as a young person, as a young child, you go to something that's hot, you burn yourself, you generally won't do it again because you've learned that lesson and that was a bad thing. So stored in the memory banks for future use. And then whenever, like if you get bitten by a dog when you're little, there's a chance that you're going to be scared of dogs potentially for the rest of your days because it's kind of ding, right, that was a bad thing, stick that in there. And also if you, anything like social phobias generally are triggered by something bad happening whilst you're out and about. So if you go out somewhere and you get embarrassed and you go really red and people pick up on it, oh, you've gone really red. There's a social phobia, like rosacea type thing. So people get flushing and that is triggered by it. So that is if something bad is happening or you feel under pressure, people will flush. And then you think, oh God, people are going to notice I'm flushing. And then you think about it more and it internalizes it and it becomes a really bad thing in your brain. And then you basically can't go out, which is like a terrible thing. So yeah, it's not great. Your brain can do some really nasty things to you. Tix Bomber says, bah, you just got cancelled in America. Oh, damn it.
Let's go to the bottom.
Hang on. Where do I get to?
I don't know if you can read out loud.
Gert Ugly Bob. Yes, Ugly Gert Bob. Says that. That's quite good. Oh no, Bob. Tix Bomber, when the powers combine, they form Grow Letter. I quite like that. That's good. Greta spells her name with one T. She thinks T's are in danger. That's good, James. I like that. Oh dear. Rick H says, I'm a legend in my own mind. It's the best way to be. Oh. Bob. Mookie MC says, my favourite British phrase is up the wooden hill to Bedfordshire. I bet you use that all the time, right? No. In fact, the last time I actually heard that, I think it was used in a more comedic sense. I'm sure it is one of the Rowan Atkinson things. Possibly not Mr. Bean, like Blackadder or something. I'm not entirely sure which it was. I'm sure, yeah, I think it was something along those lines. Or was it Hugh Laurie in something? But yeah, that is something which generally, I don't think that gets used. It might have got used in like the 70s maybe, but I've very rarely outside of that. Tix Bomber wasn't ice lolly, it's popsicle, ice pop.
Oh, you can talk bilingual.
I am bilingual.
Because I was thinking how lucky we've got Ugly Bob to translate things.
Yeah, a popsicle, basically sugar, flavouring and water put into a mould and then frozen, generally with a stick or some sort of plastic thing stuck inside of it.
But not straw.
No. Oh dear. Right, okay. I think that should... What's the time we got? I keep on saying I'll wrap things up and it's like it goes on forever. Ugly Bobsicle. Nice. Yeah, frozen pop soda on a stick is a popsicle. Yeah, because we call jelly.
Gelatin.
You call it, it's basically that gelatine stuff. So you mix it with hot water and it sets and it's like wibbles and wobbles. But I think you lot in America, possibly in Canada as well, call it jello.
Oh yeah.
Rather than jelly.
And
but I think that's because the company that made it over in the Americas was the Jello company. So you kind of, like over here for vacuums, yeah, jelly over here is jam. It's normally made of like fruit and sugar, preservative sort of thing. What was the other one I was going to say? Oh, damn. Jello, jelly. No, I got it. There's some other weird ones actually. There's some quite funny ones as well, because if you, in the UK, a very traditional name for a cigarette would be a fag. Whereas obviously in America, that's something completely different. But it's quite funny that some people, and like if you're like low income or you're a homeless person or whatever, you'd be like a bum. But also over here, a bum is your backside. But also, if you want something for free, you say, "Can I bum that off you?" So if you get to the point where you've got no money and you need a cigarette, you'd be like, "Oh, can I bum a fag off of you?" And if you said that in America, it'd be like, "What the actual F have you just said?"
I thought you were going to say about fanny packs.
So there's, yeah, fannies, like fanny pack. A fanny over here is the lady's front bottom, but in America, the fanny, I believe, is the rear bottom. So, yeah.
Our daughter really wanted to...
And we have bum bags, whereas in America, a bum is someone who's like, doesn't have a job and stuff, I guess. So, yeah. You have a fanny pack, we have a bum bag.
Until we called it a fanny pack and she didn't want it anymore. She was scared.
Anyway, hopefully there's some funny things that although we all speak English, we speak very different versions of it with different meanings. Freedom House says no, we use that term in America. I used to bum a smoke when I smoked. Yeah. Boot or trunk. Storage area of a vehicle in the UK would depend on what type of vehicle it is. So if you had a saloon car, you'd have a boot, because that would open up. If you had a hatchback, it would be called a hatchback, or it would be wrongly referred to as a boot. But you'd say, "Can you open the hatch?" Or "Open the boot." You should though.
But I always call them wing mirrors, and my brother goes, they're not on your wing, they're on your door.
Yeah, door mirrors and wing mirrors, yeah.
In a weird accent, can you answer that question?
In a weird accent. Where was the question?
I have a 3060 and a
Where's that?
10400.
Where's that?
Down a bit.
I'm at the bottom.
Up a bit. Not that far up.
In a weird accent. It's not come up.
It's under Skystalker for
yeah. Oh, game such. Alright, sorry. In a weird accent. Alright, let's do this one. In a weird accent, I have a 3060 and a 10400. I've just bought a B650 Edge motherboard, Corsair Dominator 5600 and 7600X. Very similar to what I've got. Huge bottleneck, I know, but how is the Mobo and RAM? Will I see at least some performance game in games such as Apex? I don't know. Probably not. Not a great deal. Upgrading your platform is rarely beneficial to gameplay if you're keeping the same graphics card, because you've got a more efficient transportation bus in the new platform, hypertransport, infinity cache, all that sort of stuff, and faster RAM. Then in theory you should see, I would say you're probably going to see an improvement in your 1% lows. You might see an improvement overall, but I'd say your 1% lows, any bottlenecks that might have existed there due to processing would probably be eliminated. Although I'm pretty sure the NVIDIA driver has got a pretty high CPU overhead, so that might be useful as well, because you've got a faster IPC on the processor, so the overhead would be negated a little bit, or lessened by the faster processing IPC, because the latency wouldn't be there quite as much. So you should see an improvement. It's not going to be a night and day one, so you'd if you just wanted faster gameplay, you'd have probably been better off going for like a 3070, selling the 3060, getting a 3070, and you'd see a significant increase in speed. But still, a decent upgrade, and you're going to be ready for when PCI Express Gen 5 graphics cards come out, or stick in a 40 series, or whatever AMD throw us a bone with in the coming kind of months. I think this month there should still be the 7080 XT. Sorry, 7800 XT. That should be out this month, I think. Maybe next month. I think it's getting close. Don't know if it's going to be any good though. Tristan G says, okay, nighty night, Mike, Kath and all. Jello is just a brand name. Don't stigmatise me for our cultural foibles. Hey, no worries. We're in the United Kingdom. We got so many things to answer for, and we've been doing it for a lot longer.
In a weird accent, makes sense.
It
Thanks
does.
for the help. Skipping this gen as it's way too ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. TX Mario Jelly here's basically flavoured gelatin, and you were correct. It originates from the Jello brand company. Jam is actually the real deal here. All right, oh, cool. Where did I get to? Oh yeah. Boot or trunk? What is a storage area? Yeah, technically it's a boot in the UK.
Sticky in the boot.
Very rarely. Now it gets confusing as well, because if you've got a car like a Volkswagen Beetle where it has the trunk or boot at the front of the car, is it still the boot, even though it's at the front? Because technically a boot is the rear. So if it moves to the front, the storage space is the boot at the front. Is it still called a boot? I don't know. Freedom House, never heard of boot as trunk. If you watch any 1970s or 1980s English crime dramas, you'll see it all the time because people get put in them quite frequently.
Holding carpet.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Or they say, get a shooter. It's in the boot. I'll get it. They don't say that really. Nick Barnes says, different word meanings plus country accent changes. It's no wonder English is a hard language to master. It is, and I'm still learning all this time in. Tix Barnes says, they also consider the hatch a door. Yeah, because a hatchback is classed as a 5-door rather than a 4-door. But it's not a door you'd ever get in. Well, unless it was one of those times where your mates had got a car and there's no room, so one of you had to get in the boot through the hatch in the 5-door.
I
Fox.
wish you could get out of it though, because I used to park so close to other cars I couldn't open my door to get out. But I couldn't open the boot from the inside.
DXT Sync says, games that are CPU intensive like Warzone, you'll see an improvement. Yes, CSGO as well, you'd see a big uplift in that. Mookie MC says, the English language is contradictory and much too confusing. It's amazing we can talk without starting major conflicts. Take a look at the news. There's lots of them, especially in the UK. Everyone's fighting everybody. Oh, and America as well. Good night all, Mike needs rest. I can hear it in his voice. Yeah, my voice is starting to go. Frunk or F-boot? Yeah, it could be. Bonnet. That's a bonnet technically is what covers an engine. So if there's no engine in the front, is it still a bonnet?
Do Williams and then we better go.
Yeah. William Bodie. Question, did you see Cyberpunk want to update the game so the best GPU with 16 will do best? Oh right, okay. So I get basically just adding bigger textures so that you basically need a 16 gig card to make it look good. Yeah, it's basically one of those things that is going to be almost like can it run Crysis type thing all again. So it's like you don't necessarily want to run Crysis with the full bloody textures and everything ultra, but it's like a real posing thing. So yeah, I can run Cyberpunk Ultra. Of course I can.
It's almost like The Sims, wasn't it? You never ever played it with all the textures because it was just too long to load everything, and it was just. I always played it miniature.
Still 26 degrees. The temperature is not dropping in the Mub household, and it's 47% humidity. I think that's wrong. If I put my thumb there, it's going to get hotter. Yep, 48% humidity because my sweaty thumb. See if we can get it to 49%. Real proof for the pudding. Yep, 49%. How sweaty is my thumb?
Put your armpit.
I've not even had it at my butt. 51%.
Put your armpit on it.
I'm not putting my armpit on it. It'll go bing, 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 bing. Wow, that's some humid thumb right there. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap things up. Hopefully you've enjoyed the stream and had a little bit of a chill out and relax in. You've learned some English and American phrases, which potentially could be deemed as offensive in some environments. But they're not intended that way, so please don't take it that way. It's all a little bit of fun, just poking a bit of mockery at our languages and the way they work and how they're interpreted and all that kind of stuff. So, I think that's going to wrap things up. I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and how... Oh, I should say as well, thank you all for the super chats and your donations and also for smashing the like button, which I'm sure you've done already. I've not even checked the stats yet, actually. I should do that. Where is it? 70 likes. That's not bad. I can live with that. That's half decent. Anyway, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and how to, and hopefully we'll catch you, yes, you, in the very next video. Thanks for watching. And enjoy what's left of your weekend. Oh, and don't forget to wish fathers Happy Father's Day in 11 minutes. Don't forget. Because I kind of did and still haven't sent the card off. Sorry, Dad. Anyway, that's enough of that.